The low roar of the engine was like the heartbeat of a giant beast, vibrating every inch of the titanium alloy frame of the Thunder cruiser. The Galaxy Alliance headquarters at the home base is brightly lit, and countless battleships are arrayed like silver swords, suspended in the orbit of the blue planet. The unknown threat in the fringe star territory hangs over the Alliance like a ghost. The fleets of the Kasa Empire are already sharpening their swords in the dark. The smell of gunpowder in the Cold War is too strong to be resolved. Lu Ting stood in the center of the bridge, his iron-green military uniform wrapped around his steel-like body. His black eyes scanned the holographic projection, which flashed the red curve of the wormhole route. "Your Excellency, Captain," a young communications sergeant swallowed, his voice trembling slightly, "the Kasa Empire's spy network has been extremely active recently, and the top management is worried that the ruins information will be leaked. Is it true that the Thunder is the only one on our mission?" Lu Ting's gaze pierced through like a laser. The sergeant's face instantly turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. The surrounding crew members exchanged glances, and one person muttered in a low voice, "The new guy is so lively." The pungent smell of engine oil and ionized air filled the bridge, mixed with the stench of nervous sweat. A sneer appeared at the corner of Lu Ting's lips, and his voice was like a cold wind blowing across the deck. "Single-handed? That's because you haven't seen what iron-blooded honor is. The Alliance gave us this cruiser, not to make you tremble, but to crush the enemy. Whoever talks more, go to the maintenance bay and wipe the antimatter engine." The sergeant's legs weakened and he almost knelt down. The adjutant Ye Zhi next to him, the genius ruin scientist, covered his mouth and chuckled, with admiration shining in his eyes. "The captain is right, the ancient ruins in the Edge Star field contain secrets that can change the situation of the war. After we scan, we can make the barbarians in Kasa kneel down and beg for mercy." Under her white coat, her slender fingers touched the portable scanner, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Gu Han, the Kong deputy captain and chief engineer, walked from behind the engineering console, his tall figure casting a long shadow. He patted the sergeant on the shoulder, his voice as low as an engine idling. "Boy, the captain's order is the galactic code. Prepare to travel through the wormhole, and all systems will self-check." Gu Han's eyes were as deep as black holes, and years of crisis response gave him a reliable aura. When the crew saw him nodding, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Someone murmured, "With Deputy Gu here, any wormhole will be stable." The charming intelligence officer Mu Xue leaned against the intelligence terminal, her red lips slightly raised, her curvy figure looming under the light. She glanced at Lu Ting and said in a charming voice, "Captain, the latest intelligence shows that assassins from the Kasa Empire have infiltrated the Edge Star field. Our route is safe, but we need to be vigilant internally." She tapped the terminal with her fingers, encrypted data pulsed on the screen, and the air was filled with the scent of her exotic perfume, so sweet that several male crew members' Adam's apples rolled. Xiao Yi, a captain-level tactical officer, stood respectfully on the side. His face was straight under his military cap, and he saluted with his hands behind his back. "As you command, Captain. I will ensure that the tactical module operates perfectly." His voice was steady, but there was an imperceptible hint of evil in his eyes. Lu Ting caught the strangeness and frowned slightly, but did not go into it. Now was not the time to be suspicious. The scene changes drastically. The entrance to the wormhole was like the mouth of a giant beast, with the twisted space vortex swallowing up the light. The front shield of the Thunder shone with metallic luster as it forced its way in. The hull of the ship jolted violently, the metal frame whined, sparks flew from the console, and the pungent smell of ozone filled the nostrils. The alarm was sharp and piercing, space distortion 95%, shield load 120%. Gu Han's hands flew on the holographic keyboard, sweat sliding down his forehead. "Stabilize the engine. Anti-gravity field is online." His voice was as steady as a rock. The crew members stared wide-eyed, watching the energy curve surge from red to the green line. Some people couldn't help but exclaimed, "Gu is awesome. This wave is stable, we are alive." Let's go. Lu Ting gave the order, and the bridge alarm bell rang. The thunder engine sprays a tail of blue plasma flames, tearing apart the atmosphere and rushing into the dark universe. The mother star quickly shrank into a blue dot outside the porthole, and the surrounding stars were scattered like diamonds, making it so lonely that it was chilling. The crew fastened their seat belts, and the fear of wormhole crossing spread like a virus. Someone whispered, "The last time the Falcon entered a wormhole, half of the systems collapsed and the entire ship evaporated." Lu Ting stood still, his black eyes locked on the front window. The inner wall of the wormhole was flowing like liquid metal, and a strange blue light reflected his stern face. Mu Xue's face was pale, her nails were embedded in her palms, Ye Zhi bit her lips tightly, and Xiao Yi lowered his head and pretended to check the data, with deeper shadows in his eyes. The time travel only lasted 30 seconds, but it was like an eternal hell. The thunder rushed out with a bang, the wormhole collapsed into endless nothingness behind, and in front was the desolation of the edge star field. The dead nebula was filled with blood mist, the broken planetary debris was floating, and the ancient ruins were faintly pulsing on the scanning radar. "We have arrived at the target star field, 0.3 light seconds away from the core of the ruins." The communications sergeant wiped away cold sweat, his voice trembling. Ye Zhi was the first to jump up, and the scanner beeped wildly. Her beautiful eyes widened, and her voice was sharp and excited. Energy fluctuations. Weak but stable, a sign of ancient alien civilization. This is definitely an S-class ruins, and it may contain faster-than-light technology. "Captain, we have made a fortune." Her hands trembled, and blood appeared on her face. The engineers around her gasped, and someone murmured, "S-class?" The B-class discovered last time allowed the Alliance to build 10 more battleships. This. Gu Han nodded and raised the corner of his mouth slightly. The scanning array is operating at full power, and a 3D model is expected to be generated within 10 minutes. He turned to Lu Ting, his eyes filled with admiration. "Captain, your decision saved the time travel." Mu Xue's communicator suddenly vibrated. She glanced at it and saw a series of encrypted codes flashing on the screen. Operation Countdown. She pursed her red lips slightly and quickly deleted it. When she raised her head, she had resumed her charming smile. Intelligence confirmed that there are traces of the Star Territory invincible ship. But Kasa's probe may have been lurking. Lu Ting nodded, his eyes scanning Xiao Yi like an eagle. The captain was lowering his head to talk to the tactical AI, with a faint twitching of the corners of his mouth. Lu Ting's heart sank, and his iron-blooded intuition told him that something strange had happened. "But the task comes first," he said in a deep voice. "The whole ship is on alert. Ye Zhi, speed up the scan. Gu Han, strengthen the shield. Mu Xue, monitor all internal communications. Xiao Yi, the tactical plan is ready." "Yes." Everyone shouted in unison, their morale rising. The bridge lights turned to amber warning color, the engines roared, and the scanning beam pierced the ruins like a silver spear. The ruins were like a black behemoth in space, with ancient runes covering its surface, and energy fluctuations making the air buzz. Suddenly, there was a muffled beep sound, and the internal communication channel went silent. The bridge screen flashed red text, "Communications interrupted." No response from the first officer's control room. Gu Han turned around suddenly, his face ashen. "Impossible. Where is the backup line?" Ye Zhi's scanner fell and made a crisp impact sound. "The energy fluctuations are abnormal. The ruins are pulse interference." Mu Xue's pupils shrank and her fingers froze on the terminal. Xiao Yi slowly raised his head, his eyes finally showed a sinister smile, and the corners of his mouth curled up. "Captain, it seems, the game has begun." Lu Ting's black eyes erupted with cold light, and the entire ship's alarm sounded like a doomsday horn, and the red light drowned everything. The screams of the crew echoed, and fear spread like a virus. Mutiny. Insider. In the abyss of this lonely star field, the fate of the Thunder hangs by a thread, and an iron-blooded purge is about to begin. The red light in the bridge pulsed like blood, the screams of alarms pierced the eardrums, and the faces of the crew members twisted into ghosts in the flash. Xiao Yi's ferocious smile hung in the air like a poisonous snake spitting messages. The cold metallic smell mixed with the smell of sweat made people breathless. Lu Ting's black eyes were like black holes swallowing up everything. He stepped forward, his military boots tapping against the deck, making a sonorous echo. His voice overcame the chaos, everyone is silent. Gu Han, switch to backup communication. Ye Zhi, lock on the source of interference. Mu Xue, scan the internal channels, everyone, location report. Gu Han's hands danced on the holographic console like lightning, his fingertips pulling at the energy curve, beads of sweat sliding down his tower-like body and sizzling on the keyboard. His voice was as low as the roar of an engine, the interference comes from the pulse of the ruins. There is no signal from the deputy ship's control room, but the main engine is stable and the hull is undamaged. The engineers around them widened their eyes, and someone murmured, Mr. Gu's hand speed is simply possessed by an AI. Their fear receded like a tide, replaced by a trace of awe, and their shoulders relaxed a bit. Ye Zhi picked up the scanner and flicked the screen with trembling slender fingers. Her cheeks were still flushed with excitement, but they were white with panic. Captain, preliminary data shows that the ruins are embedded in the crust of the planet below. The ancient alien runes are confirmed, and the energy signature matches the Zell civilization, that is a ghost that can distort time and space. Her voice was sharp, and the crew gasped. An old engineer whispered, Zell. Legend has it that their ruins can swallow a battleship in one bite. Is our cruiser qualified? The atmosphere of despair filled the air like a nebula. Outside the porthole, the gray surface of the dead planet slowly expanded, and the storm clouds rolled like the scales of a giant beast. Mu Xue's red lips pursed into a thin line, and her nails dug into her palms. She quickly tapped the intelligence terminal, and a red alert popped up on the screen. The Casa Empire fleet is frequently active. 3 destroyers are cruising 0.5 light seconds away, suspected of spying on us. There is a weak encryption leak in internal communications. Her charming eyes swept across Xiao Yi. The captain had put away his ferocious smile and pretended to be calm and saluted. Captain, let me take the scanning team down to protect Dr. Yi. The tactical boat is fully armed, and I promise to return safely. His voice was steady as usual, but shadows flickered in the depths of his pupils. Several subordinates loyal to him exchanged glances, and his Adam's apple rolled. Lu Ting's eyes were like laser cutting, staring at Xiao Yi for a long time. The crew members around him held their breath, and someone whispered, Captain recommends himself. Is it too urgent at this time? The doubts fell like drizzle, and Lu Ting raised the corner of his mouth slightly, and sneered like a cold blade unsheathed, agreed. Xiao Yi, bring me with you. Your people will go, but remember, the honor of the Thunderbolt cannot be tarnished. If there is any movement, I will chop you up with my own hands. Xiao Yi's face stiffened slightly, but he quickly lowered his head, yes. He turned and left, the sound of military boots echoed in the corridor, and the eyes of the subordinates who followed him flickered. More above the ruins. Lu Ting gave the order, and the engine sprayed blue plasma flames. The thunder dived like a silver eagle, and locked the planet's orbit with a magnetic anchor like a hook. The ship's hull trembled slightly, gravity pulled the deck, the wind and sand roared outside the window, and the gray-yellow dust storm hit the shield and made a metallic scream. Gu Han led the engineers to rush to the maintenance cabin. His figure disappeared behind the cabin door, his tall back as reliable as a rock. A young technician wiped his sweat and followed, murmuring, Mr. Gu, are you going to repair the interference field? That pulse can melt titanium alloy, can he do that? The fearful whisper spread like a virus, and the air was filled with the smell of ozone and burning metal. Lu Ting nodded, his iron-blooded intuition was like a radar scan, and he stood up in person. I will patrol the hull and strengthen security. Gu Han, repair the priority. Mu Xue, monitor Xiao Yi's channel. Military boots tapped on the corridor, and he pushed open the hatch. The interior of the cruiser stretched like a maze, uranium crystal tubes cast long shadows, and the low-frequency engine hum reverberated in the air. When passing by the soldier cabin, he caught a glimpse of an unusual gathering of Xiao Yi's men. More than a dozen soldiers gathered around the storage area, talking in low voices and pressing the handles of pulse guns. When a sergeant saw him, his face turned pale and he was sweating like rain. Ship. Captain. We are checking the equipment. The soldier's eyes dodged, his voice trembled, his companions around him froze, and the air solidified like a vacuum. Lu Ting's black eyes were filled with coldness, and his voice exploded like thunder. Inspection. Assemble under the mutiny alarm. Get out of here and let me see. He pushed the sergeant away and scanned the cabin. Several encrypted communicators flashed red, and the emblem of the Kasa Empire remained on the screen. The sergeant's legs went weak, and he knelt down and trembled. No. It's not what you think. The soldier next to him stared with wide eyes, filled with fear. Captain, spare your life. We are loyal to the Alliance. Lu Ting snorted coldly, and the pulse pistol was pressed against the sergeant's forehead. The metal felt cold to the touch. The man peed his pants, and the fishy smell filled the air. Go back to your post, see you again, and shoot. He turned and left, with his back like a steel mountain, and the soldiers slumped to the ground. Someone murmured, the captain's eyes are like the god of death. Captain Xiao is playing with fire. The bridge returned to amber light. Ye Zhi slumped in the chair. The scanner buzzed endlessly. The data has progressed by 20%, there is a structural diagram deep in the ruins. The density of the metal alloy exceeds the Alliance standard, the internal chamber. Oh my god, there may be a blueprint core. Her beautiful eyes widened, and her voice trembled with excitement. The sergeants came closer, with greed and exclamation on their faces. Super light speed? What the Alliance dreams of, is it down there? But Mu Xue suddenly interrupted. Her voice was charming and thorny. The Kasa destroyer is approaching 0.3 light seconds, and their probe has locked on us. Captain, the external threat has intensified. When returning to the bridge, the scan went smoothly, and Ye Zhi cheered. 50%. The deep structure map was captured. There is a crystal array in the chamber, and the energy output can tear the wormhole wall apart. Her fingers flew, and a 3D projection emerged. Ruins like the entrails of a giant beast, with rune veins flashing blue. The crew members watched with eyes wide open, and a communications sergeant swallowed his saliva. If this were the faster-than-light blueprint, those dogs in Kasa would be doomed. But the cheers stopped abruptly. Energy pulses erupted deep in the ruins. As dazzling as solar flares, the planet's atmosphere boiled, and the storm swept across like thousands of sharp knives. The ship body shook violently. The deck tilted 45 degrees, and the alarm screamed, shield load 150%. Crustal fault collapse. The scream of twisted metal was harsh, sparks flew everywhere, and the smell of ozone was so strong that it choked your nose. Ye Zhi screamed, and the scanner almost fell off. The storm is from pulse backlash. Captain, we are going to crash. Mu Xue clung to the armrest, her face was pale. Her nails were broken and bleeding. The external fleet is approaching. Kasa fires to warm up. The crew screamed in despair, and someone knocked over the console. It's over. The thunder is going to become space junk. Gu Han's voice boomed from the communicator. Stabilize the engineering cabin. Anti-gravity field is online. Shields are redistributed. Hold on. His roar was like the arrival of the god of war. The ship shook, and the energy curve was pulled back from the red line to the yellow zone. The engineers were sweating profusely in the cabin. Looking at the holographic screen, someone exclaimed, Mr. Gu, operate it. The load dropped to 80%, and we survived. Everyone on the bridge widened their eyes, and Ye Zhi burst into tears. Mr. Gu, the savior. Mu Xue's charming eyes flashed, and she murmured, this man is terrifyingly reliable. Night falls on the planet. The ship enters the shift, and the amber light is as dim as blood. Xiao Yi's scanner boat stopped at the entrance to the ruins. In the darkness, he leaned against the cabin of the boat, and his personal communicator projected a holographic projection. The grimace of General Casa Empire appeared, and his voice was hoarse. "Captain, when will the blueprint be obtained?" The top leaders of the Alliance have acquiesced to the transaction, and the control room was captured in one fell swoop. He smiled ferociously, with sinister eyes like a wolf. "Operation tonight. The inner ghost is in place, and pulse jamming is covering. Lu Ting's iron block will kneel down and beg for mercy." The projection dissipated, and he summoned his men, whispering plans. The click of the pulse gun being loaded echoed in the silence, and the roar of the planet's sand covered everything. Lu Ting stood in the center, with no wrinkles in his military uniform, and his black eyes locked on the projection. "Accelerate the mission. Ye Zhi, scan at full power. Gu Han, strengthen the docking cabin. Where is Xiao Yi's team?" The communication was silent, and Mu Xue checked. "Not returned. The signal of the scanner ship is weakened. It is suspected that it has entered the ruins." Lu Ting frowned. His intuition sounded like an alarm bell, but the mission was overwhelming. "Continue. The honor of the Alliance cannot be lost." The bridge was quiet. Lu Ting sat alone on the captain's chair, and the nebula outside the porthole window was as lonely as a cemetery. Mu Xue approached quietly, the smell of exotic perfume assaulting her nostrils. "Captain, it's late at night, internal and external troubles, aren't you tired?" Her red lips were close to each other, her charming eyes were as silky as silk, but Lu Ting waved his hand. "Beware of evil spirits. If Xiao Yi returns late, there must be evil spirits." Mu Xue's pupils shrank slightly, and her fingers trembled slightly when she stepped back. Suddenly, clang, clang, clang. The door of the control room exploded, and gunshots exploded like thunder. The pulse beam raked the deck, and the fire reflected everything. Xiao Yi led more than a dozen traitors to rush in, with a twisted and sinister smile on his face. "Lu Ting. The game is over. We have decided on Casa's blueprint." The traitors pointed their guns at the same time, the crew members screamed and collapsed, and the smell of blood filled the air instantly. Ye Zhi huddled under the table, and Gu Han came from the maintenance cabin. Gu Han's roar rang out, "Traitor! Seeking death!" Lu Ting stood up slowly, a cold light burst out in his black eyes. The traitors around him were stunned, and someone whispered, "He isn't afraid." The air solidified, the iron and blood washed away, and it was about to explode. Ye Zhi crawled out from under the table, screaming and hugging the scanner. "No. The data cannot be lost." But a traitor kicked her over, the instrument rolled down, and the screen shattered and sparks flew everywhere. She curled up and cried, "Captain, save me." Mu Xue pretended to be panicked and backed away, her charming body pressed against the wall, a hint of calculation flashed in her eyes. "Captain Xiao, spare your life. I will join you." Xiao Yi glanced at her and smiled sinisterly. "Smart woman, come over and monitor the outside." The crew members whispered desperately, and someone trembled. "It's over. How can I stop the captain alone?" Fear swallowed everything like a vacuum, the red light of the alarm pulsed faster, and the probe of the Casa destroyer outside the porthole approached like a ghost, and the blue locking light swept across the hull. Lu Ting stood motionless, his black eyes like abyss swallowing firelight. The traitors around him burst out laughing. "Look at him, he's still pretending to be calm." One shot in the head. A traitor pulled the trigger, and the beam of light shot directly at Lu Ting's chest, but he flashed, and his military boots slammed on the deck, shaking like an earthquake. He turned sideways to avoid it, and the scorching airwaves grazed his face and burned his hair. He approached like a ghost, and punched out with his iron fist. The traitor's head exploded, and his brains splashed against the wall. The muffled sound of bloody flesh made the surrounding traitors widen their eyes. "What? The body is blocking the pulse." Another traitor fired in a panic, and the beam hit the captain's chair and exploded into a fireball. The fragments were like rain, but Lu Ting had already pounced on him, kneeing him in the abdomen. The sound of ribs cracking was clear and crisp. The traitor fell to the ground spurting blood, and the pulse gun slid away from his hand. Monster! Xiao Yi turned pale and shouted, "Concentrate your firepower. Cut off all communications and blockade the bridge." The traitors swarmed forward, gunshots poured down like a torrential rain, sparks exploded from the bridge console, energy curves jumped wildly, and red lights flashed crazily. Lu Ting rolled into the smoke, grabbed the remains of a broken gun on the ground, swung his hand like a dart and pierced the throat of a traitor. Blood spurted out like a fountain, and the man twitched and fell with a grunt. The crew members poked their heads out of the bunker, and the communications sergeant covered his wound with his eyes straight. "Captain. He killed people with his bare hands." The pulse shield couldn't stop him from a distance. Mu Xue's fingers trembled slightly, pretending to operate the terminal, but in fact, she secretly cut off Lu Ting's personal communications, hiding her guilty conscience with a charming smile. Gu Han's roar exploded from the hatch, like an engine exploding. "Traitor! Get out of my bridge!" The tall figure opened the hatch, carrying an engineering electromagnetic hammer on his shoulder, and his sweaty iron tower body blocked half of the door. He swung the hammer and smashed the two traitors away. Electromagnetic pulses exploded, and the dented metal on the deck twisted and whined. The two men were scorching and twitching, and the smell of burning meat filled the air. "Mr. Gu is here." A loyal crew member cheered, and sparks of hope burst out in everyone's eyes. Gu Han locked eyes on Lu Ting. "Captain, break out. I'll hack into the system at the back door of the engineering cabin." Lu Ting nodded, his dark eyes glaring. "Cover Ye Zhi." He rushed towards the scientist, picked up her slender body, and the pulse light burned her arms, leaving scorch marks, and the smell of blood hit his nostrils. Xiao Yi roared, "Seal the door. The self-destruct sequence is activated, the countdown is 5 minutes, the whole ship will perish together." The red light on the console glowed, and the synthesized voice was cold and broadcast. "The self-destruct sequence is activated, the countdown to the disintegration of the ship, 300 seconds. The traitors surrounded them with grim smiles, and their guns converged, but Lu Ting had already rushed to Gu Han's side. The three of them were back to back. Ye Zhi hugged the scanner and trembled. "The data, the blueprint structure is inside." Gu Han hammered open the passage, electromagnetic waves shook the three people away, and the sound of cracking bones continued. "Let's go." They rushed out of the bridge, and the hatch was automatically sealed. A rain of pulse bullets hit the titanium alloy door, and sparks exploded like fireworks. The corridor stretches like a starship maze, with broken uranium crystal tubes, blue light flashing eerily, and low-frequency engine humming and gunfire echoing in the air. The traitors poured out of the side cabin, and more than 20 people fired volleys of pulse guns. The beams intertwined into a network, the walls melted and dripped molten metal, and waves of scorching heat hit their faces. Lu Ting pushed Ye Zhi away. "Hide the laboratory and protect the data." She nodded and climbed into the ventilation duct, her slender figure disappeared, and the scanner buzzed endlessly. Gu Han protected his back. "Captain, I'm stalling. You go to the mecha warehouse." Lu Ting snorted, "Join us." He picked up the traitor's rifle and fired 3 times. The head exploded and blood splashed on the wall. 3 corpses fell on top of each other. The traitors screamed and retreated. His shooting skills are just as predicted by the AI. An atmosphere of despair filled the air. Traitor reinforcements arrived at the end of the corridor. Someone taunted, "Lu Ting, are you iron-blooded? Wait until you self-destruct and blow up to smithereens." Gu Han growled, "Captain, mecha." Lu Ting rushed straight to the mecha parking compartment, surrounded by traitors. Amidst the hail of bullets, he jumped up, grabbed the wall and rolled over. When he landed, he punched one person's knee with a bone-crushing sound. He grabbed the gun and fired back. The blue light penetrated the chests of the 4 people, and the smell of burnt internal organs was strong. The door slid open, and the T-77 fighter mecha stood like a steel behemoth, its titanium alloy shell shining coldly under the light. He jumped into the cockpit, and the system buzzed, neural link confirmed, energy 100%. The mecha's eyes flashed red, its giant arms waved, and its plasma claws tore the two traitors apart. Flesh, and metal fragments flew with a thunderous sound. Oh my god, the mecha ace pilot. The crew behind him looked out from the hatch, eyes wide and trembling. Captain Lu, 1 to 20. The traitor is scared to death. Gu Han took the opportunity to hack into the terminal on the wall, his fingers flew around and pulled the virtual code, and beads of sweat hit the keyboard. The system is partially restored. The shield is restarted and internal monitoring is online. The corridor shook. Mecha Lu Ting was like a god of death. He blasted out shoulder cannons and blasted the passage with plasma bombs. The traitor's fragments scattered in all directions. His limbs hit the wall and were coated with plasma. His screams stopped and only the burning smell remained. Xiao Yi's vanguard collapsed and fled in all directions. A sergeant knelt down and peed his pants, "Spare your life. We were wrong." The mecha's giant foot crushed his head, and his brain burst out, a mixture of red and white. Mu Xue's voice came from the communicator, charming and trembling, "Captain, I'm outside the control room. Xiao Yi asked me to monitor and provide intelligence, 25 traitors, the vanguard has been destroyed, the gate is locked with uranium crystals, and the self-destruction countdown is 180 seconds. Her figure flashed out from the side passage, her red lips clenched, her charming face as pale as paper, and her eyes flashing with light. Lu Ting's mecha locked onto her, and his black eyes glared coldly through the window, "Prove loyalty." Mu Xue swallowed and threw out the intelligence chip, "Xiao Yi's main channel, all the CASA transaction passwords are here." Gu Han connected and murmured, "True or false, but useful." He danced his fingers wildly, self-destruction is delayed for 30 seconds, and the external gun door is opened. The deck swept like the king of hell patrolling, the mecha's arm blade cut into the traitor, sparks and blood intertwined, the metal tore and screamed, and the severed limbs rolled down and vibrated. Lu Ting jumped out of the mecha cabin, his military boots stepped over the pile of corpses, and his uniform was splashed with plasma. He went straight to the laboratory to save Ye Zhi. In the cabin, she huddled in a corner, and the prototype of the blueprint was projected on the scanner, "Captain. Xiao Yi sent people to steal the data." The two remaining traitors broke through the door, pointing their guns at Lu Ting. Ye Zhi threw herself into his arms and worshipped with tears in her eyes, "You are invincible." After hearing the news, the surrounding engineers rushed over and worshipped with eyes wide open, "Captain." The corridor was filled with blood. Traitor corpses littered the field. The pulse beam tore through the air like violent blue lightning, and the smell of hot ozone instantly filled the bridge. Black smoke rose from the burnt plastic on the deck, which was so pungent that it made people cough. Xiao Yi's evil smile twisted into a devil's face in the firelight. He held up his pulse rifle and sprayed embers from the muzzle, "Lu Ting. Your era as an iron-blooded captain is over. The thunder belongs to CASA now. The blueprint is in hand, and we will all be rich." The traitors swarmed in, and more than a dozen muzzles locked on Lu Ting. The crew members screamed and fell to the ground. Blood spattered from the shoulder of a communications sergeant, dyeing the console red, and the sweet smell mixed with the smell of burnt metal. Suddenly, Gu Han's terminal exploded, breakthrough in the ruins scan. Ye Zhi's data is uploaded, the crystal array is confirmed, the superlight speed blueprint appears. The energy signature matches Zell's core, and the pulse source can reverse the interference. The projection emerges, blue light veins deep in the ruins awaken like dragon veins, blueprint runes flash, and the ship the team members gasped, "This, weapon that defies heaven." But the self-destruction countdown is 90 seconds, what should we do? Lu Ting locked the door with black eyes, blood boiling with murderous intent, the mecha restarted, and the giant arm charged up, blasting the door with one blow, the uranium crystal shattered and the metal screamed. Xiao Yi's figure loomed in the firelight. The decisive battle was about to begin. The giant arm of the mecha pressed down like a mountain, and the high-frequency vibration of the plasma claws made a harsh buzz. Lu Ting's black eyes locked on the uranium crystal door. The energy meter showed that it was fully loaded, and the shoulder cannon warmed up and puffed out red light. Gu Han took half a step back, his sweat-soaked body trembling slightly, the handle of the electromagnetic hammer sizzling with arcs of electricity. Captain, one strike determines the outcome. Mu Xue's wrist bones were turned white by the buckle, her charming face was pale and twisted, her charming eyes were lowered to cover up her panic. Hurry, the traitor behind the door is heavy firepower. Ye Zhi hugged the remains of the scanner tightly and came from the laboratory, with slender fingers. The prototype of the trembling blueprint was projected, and the blue light reflected her tear-stained face. Captain, the data shows that the Zell crystal can reverse the pulse, but it self-destructs in 90 seconds. The crew members poked their heads out from behind the pile of corpses in the corridor. The communications sergeant covered his shoulder with bleeding wounds, his eyes widened. The door is too thick. The mecha's energy will be exhausted, and the Casa ship has locked onto us. Lu Ting roared, charge. The T-77 mecha's engine roared like a star core exploding, the giant arms smashed down, the uranium crystal door frame twisted and whined, metal fragments sprayed like a heavy rain, and the sparks exploded and the smell of ozone burnt the nostrils. But the door was only dented by half a meter, and the internal pulse cannon exploded in counterattack. The blue beam penetrated the mecha shield, and the energy curve jumped by 20%. The alarm synthesized the sound sharply. The shield is weakening. The traitor's firepower is concentrated. Xiao Yi's laughter seeped out from the crack in the door, echoing in the corridor like a ghost crying, Lu Ting. Are you iron-blooded? Smash it. The countdown to self-destruction is 85 seconds, and the entire ship will be buried with it. The Casa brothers have taken over. Yes, let's share the blueprint. The traitors shouted in mockery, the captain is finished. The mecha is a pile of scrap metal. Mu Xue pretended to struggle, moving her red lips slightly, and secretly moved her fingers to hide the implanted chip, conveying false information. Captain Xiao, Lu Ting is attacking the main entrance, and the flanks are empty. Her smell was mixed with blood, and Lu Ting noticed something strange. His black eyes flashed, and he tightened his grip. Shut up. Despair was swallowed by a black hole, and the crew collapsed in whispers. The Casa destroyer is approaching in 0.2 light seconds, and the main gun preheating beam sweeps across the stern. We can't stop it. Gu Han smashed the door frame, sparks splashed on his iron arms and burned scorch marks, and the sweat evaporated. There is no hope for the front attack. Captain, change your strategy. Ventilation duct penetration. The engineering cabin bypasses the control room. I hack into the rebel weapons network. You blast the defense line. Lu Tingji. Armor retreated, his red eyes scanning the ceiling ventilation grill, the uranium alloy net flashing cold light. I agree. I will lead the team. Gu Han is remote. Ye Zhi will protect the data. Mu Xue, prove it. He threw her wrist away. Mu Xue rubbed her wrist and gasped. Her charming eyes flashed through the shadows, and she nodded on the surface. Yes, all intelligence is available. The communications sergeant's eyes widened. The pipeline is as narrow as a coffin. What if the traitor ambushes me? Captain, risk it yourself. The corridor trembled, and the blue light of the Casa probe pierced the porthole like a ghost, sweeping across the hull of the Thunder. The external alarm sounded, enemy locked. 0.1 light seconds away, 30 seconds to fire. Lu Ting jumped out of the mecha, his military boots stepped on the corpse, blood splashed, and his black eyes were like a starry abyss. Action. He cut open the ventilation grill with a dagger, and the metal shrieked as it tore, and he got in first. His broad shoulders squeezed the wall of the pipe, and the cold alloy scraped against the military uniform and made a harsh friction. Gu Han carried the hammer to the back, while Ye Zhi crawled and projected the blueprint. Preliminary interpretation. Zell's superlight speed blueprint. The crystal array can distort space and fold, and can be weaponized to destroy the fleet with one strike. This can reverse the century-old war between the Alliance and Casa. Her voice was trembling with excitement, the blue light reflected the pipe was gloomy, and the air was sultry and mixed with the smell of blood. The pipes are winding like the intestines of a starship, the uranium crystal lamps are broken and flashing with blue light, the muffled sound of gunshots is heard in the distance, and the traitors' patrol footsteps shake the pipe walls. Lu Ting knelt in front, sensing the traitors' heat source, and gestured in sign language. 5 people guard the branch. Mu Xue pressed against his back, the heat of the monster body hitting his nose, and pretended to whisper, "Turn left and go straight to the side cabin of the control room." But her secret message had been passed, and Xiao Yi's deputy, Lieutenant Hookface, received the message with a low roar, "False intelligence. Double the flank ambush." Pipe branch, the traitor's pulse gun penetrated, and the wall of the tube melted and dripped with blue light. Hot metal splashed on Lu Ting's arms. The smell of roasted meat filled the air. He groaned without saying a word. He smashed the barrel with his iron fist, pulled out the traitor's head and hit the wall of the tube. There was a muffled sound of bone cracking, and blood spurted into the tube like rain. The sound of grunting and twitching made Ye Zhi behind him scream and cover his mouth. "Captain, too cruel." The team branched out. Lu Ting rolled to the ground. The dagger flashed. 3 traitors fell to the ground with blood spurting from their throats. The blood fountain was slick on the ground. The 4th person pulled the trigger. Lu Ting pounced on him. His knee hit his chest and his ribs were shattered. The gun fell out of his hand. He pulled the trigger and shot his head. His brain splashed on the wall in red and white blur. Mu Xue slipped out of the tube, her charming body landed dexterously, and pretended to pick up the gun. "I'll cover you." But there was a calculating look in her eyes. Ye Zhi crawled out and worshipped with eyes wide. "You are like the god of death." Gu Han's communication blasted, remote paralysis activated. The rebel weapon network virus is injected, and the pulse gun overload counts down for 10 seconds. His fingers were flying around the terminal, sweating like raindrops. The crew behind him watched, and the communications sergeant trembled. Second Officer Gu's skill. The traitor's gun barrel is red hot. A street fight broke out, and more than 10 people in the traitor defense line rushed out of the side cabin. Their guns converged, but the pulse gun suddenly overheated, and the blue light twisted and exploded into a fireball. The self-explosion fragments tore their bodies, and the smell of burnt meat was strong. They screamed continuously, "The weapon is broken. Damn it!" Lu Ting rushed into the herd like a tiger, his military boots exploded on his knees, there was a sound of bone shattering, and the dagger slid out of his abdomen and internal organs, hot and bloody. He dodged to avoid the random gunfire, and smashed the 2 heads with his iron fist and hit the wall with a muffled sound like a cracking melon. The engineers around him heard the battle and rushed over, their eyes wide and trembling. The captain slaughtered the team by himself. The traitor was so frightened that his intestines were dragged to the ground. Xiao Yi's deputy, Lieutenant Iron Hook Face, said ferociously. He rushed forward with a smile, holding up his plasma axe. "Lu Ting, die." The axe blade buzzed and slashed down. Lu Ting sidestepped, tripped over his military boot's hook leg, the dagger pierced his eye socket, his brains spurted out, Lieutenant Iron Hook twitched and fell to the ground, dying and grunting. "Impossible, melee combat king." The defense line collapsed, corpses littered the alleys, blood flowed into a river, and the sound of slippery footsteps echoed. Lu Ting went straight to the engineering cabin. Gu Han had hacked into the main control. The main gun has been repaired by 60%. The energy circuit is restarted, but the self-destruction countdown is 40 seconds. Ye Zhi projected the blueprint like a dragon, confirmed. The superlight speed blueprint is complete. The space-folding cannon, a relic of Zell civilization, distorts the enemy ship and annihilates it light-years away. With this, the Casa Empire will be destroyed, and the galaxy will be reorganized. Her eyes lit up, and the crew members gasped, "Oh my God." Why did the higher-ups ask us to come to the edge of the star field? Mu Xue smiled and agreed, but Xiao Yi's call for help has been sent, and the main gun of the Casa patrol ship has been charged. Outside the porthole, the night sky is endless, and 3 Casa patrol ships are approaching like black shadow monsters. The red main gun ring beams are firing at a distance of 0.05 light seconds. They are locked on the thunder. The synthetic alarm blasts the brain, enemy fire coverage. The shield is reduced by 30%. The ship's hull shook violently, energy waves swept across, and the deck was dented and the metal wailed. Lu Ting snorted coldly, "Gu Han, open all guns." Ye Zhi's data is backed up, and Mu Xue is monitoring the outside. He jumped back into the T-77 mecha, his red eyes brightening, and the shoulder cannon blasted out plasma bombs, blowing away the remaining traitors, causing fragments to fly and blood and fire to interweave. The main cannon of the engineering cabin buzzed to life, blue energy gathered, and Gu Han shouted, "Lock on Casa Pioneer. Fire!" The door to the control room is in front, and the uranium crystal is locked and flashing red. Xiao Yi's roar comes from inside, self-destruction and restart. "Lu Ting, you can't get in. We have decided on the blueprint in Casa." The countdown is 120 seconds, the synthesized voice is like the whisper of death, the ship's body is trembling, and the energy is overloaded. Gu Han rushed forward and hammered the door frame, causing sparks to fly. The lock core is made of titanium alloy and needs to be laser cut. Mu Xue approached Lu Ting, the smell of the fragrance was fragrant. "Let me try, intelligence officer hacker expertise." Her fingers moved, but a shadow flashed in her eyes. Lu Ting noticed and grabbed her wrist with an iron hand. "Don't play tricks." She gasped, "Trust me." Gu Han's iron tower body was handcuffed, his face was livid with sweat, and he growled, "Captain, leave me alone. Kill him." The crew was desperate, the deputy captain is in the enemy's hands. Self-destruct in 20 seconds, Casa's second wave of bombardment. Lu Ting's mecha stood in front of the door, his black eyes were murderous like starbursts, the dagger was spinning and blood was shining, and the aura of decisive battle filled the abyss of space. Mu Xue's red lips slightly raised, and the conspiracy was hidden in her eyes. Ye Zhi hugged Yi and said tremblingly, "Captain." The red light of the Casa ship outside returned, the thunder shook, and the sea of fire swallowed the corridor. In the symphony of blood and metal, Lu Ting stepped forward, and in the iron-blooded battle, the cosmic conspiracy first revealed its fangs. The thick uranium alloy door of the control room twisted and heated under the red light. The lock buzzed like a beast roaring. Xiao Yi's projection flashed across the ship. His gun was pressed against the back of Gu Han's head. The veins in the neck of the iron tower-like vice-captain were bulging. Sweat beads slid down the iron arm, hitting the ground in a red river of blood. Outside the outer portholes, space was as silent as an endless black abyss. 2 behemoths of the Casa patrol ship were approaching. The red main gun ring beams were fierce. Energy waves swept through the Thunder's hull. The deck shook violently and the metal screamed. Sparks spattered from the cracks. The smell of molten ozone entered the nostrils. The synthetic sound of the alarm pierced the brain. Countdown to self-destruction is 18 seconds. The shield is attenuated by 40%, and the engine fire is spreading. The crew huddled behind the pile of corpses in the corridor. The communications sergeant's shoulder was wounded and his mouth was shaking with blood, and his eyes were round and despairing. "Captain, Mr. The blue light reflected the tears on her pale face. The data was backed up by 80%, but the relic pulse backfired and the instrument overheated." Mu Xue's alluring body pressed against the wall, her red lips trembled slightly, a shadow of hesitation flashed across her charming eyes, her fingers secretly flicked the implanted chip, but it was locked by Lu Ting's black eyes. The red eyes of Lu Ting's T-77 mecha flashed brightly, and the shoulder cannon buzzed and puffed out plasma as it warmed up. His military boots smashed a traitor's head on the ground, and his brain splattered with sticky material. He roared over the communication, "Xiao Yi, I'll accept the duel. Let Gu Han go and challenge the control room." Xiao Yi's projected smile was distorted, and the barrel of the gun rubbed against Gu Han's scalp, causing electricity to rise. "Ark, Captain Iron-Blooded. Come on. Open the door for 5 seconds, or Deputy Gu's head will explode into stardust." The door lock clicked to unlock, and heat wave and blood hit his face. More than 10 traitors in the control room gathered their guns, pulse blue light flashed, Xiao Yi pushed Gu Han forward, Deputy Iron Hook's body was still twitching by the door, his intestines were slick with blood on the floor. The crew watched the projection from a distance, and the communications sergeant gasped, "Captain broke into the tiger's den alone. The traitors' fire network, the mecha's shield is only 20% left." Lu Ting's mecha roared in with its engine, fired the first shot of the shoulder cannon, and the plasma bomb exploded into a fireball that swallowed the 3 traitors. The smell of burnt meat was strong, and the fragments tore their chests, and they screamed and died. "Ah, it's so hot." The blue beam of the traitors' counterattack penetrated the shield, the energy curve jumped wildly, the metal of the mecha's arm melted and dripped, and the searing pain felt like needles pricking Lu Ting's nerves, but his black eyes did not blink, and he smashed a gun barrel with his iron fist, pulled out the traitor's throat and crushed it. A fountain of blood splashed all over the console, and the smell of blood and rust filled the air. Gu Han was pushed to his knees, and the shackles were locked tightly. His livid face was lowered, and he pretended to be broken and yelled, "Captain Xiao, I surrender. The rebellion has won, and the Alliance's top leaders have sold us out long ago." Xiao Yi laughed wildly, and moved the gun half an inch away. "Clever. Hack into the main engine, delay self-destruction, and give the blueprint transaction code to CASA." Gu Han accessed the terminal with trembling fingers, sweat-soaked keyboard, secretly injecting viruses. The traitor communication channel was suddenly silent, and the projected snowflakes flickered. The traitor panicked, "The communication is broken. The CASA response signal is lost." Xiao Yi's face darkened, and he kicked Gu Han's iron arm. "What the hell?" But Lu Ting was already killing like a god of death. The giant arm of the mecha swept across, smashing the 2 traitors and hitting the console. There was a muffled sound of bone cracking, sparks flying from the instruments, and the pungent smell of ozone. He dodged to avoid the blue beam, and the dagger popped out from the fingernails of the mecha, stabbing into a traitor's eye socket and spinning, his brains gurgling out, and the body twitched and fell to the ground. Ye Zhi watched the battle from the outside, her slender body trembling in admiration, Captain's magical skill. One person broke the formation, the traitor was so frightened that he peed and blood flowed like a river. The communications sergeant covered his wound and his eyes widened, Deputy Gu responded internally. The virus paralyzed them, and the captain slaughtered them like mowing grass. Mu Xue was monitoring the outside cabin, her monster body pressed against the porthole, and the red light reflected her pale and charming face. Suddenly, the 5 traitor remnants rushed out of the side cabin, locking her with pulse guns. The leader's scarred face smiled ferociously, "Intelligence bitch. Captain Xiao said you faked the surrender, and the chip was exposed, kill." The blue beam fired, and Mu Xue sidestepped the wall and melted the metal liquid, spraying her skirt with a burning smell. She screamed and retreated. "Wait. I sent false information to confuse Lu Ting." But the traitor did not listen, the gun muzzle gathered, and the breath of death hit her face. Ye Zhi screamed, "Mu Xue is in danger. The backup is 95%. Lu Ting's communication captured, the red light of the mecha turned, the shoulder cannon blasted out from a long distance, the plasma bomb penetrated the bulkhead and exploded, the fireball devoured the 3 traitors, roasted meat and bones scattered, and the remaining 2 people shook their guns. Mecha cannon, the compartment is locked. Lu Ting jumped out of the mecha, his military boots slid into a river of blood and he sprinted. His dagger flashed and slashed his throat, spurting blood. The second man hit his knee and smashed his ribs. His iron fist hit his face and his bones exploded like melons. His body lay at Mu Xue's feet, and her demonic body was splashed red with blood. Mu Xue sat paralyzed, with fake tears filling her eyes, and threw herself on Lu Ting's chest and gasped, "Captain, help me. I am loyal and have never betrayed. The chip is an old implant, Xiao Yi forced me." Her charming tears flashed, and the scent was mixed with blood. Lu Ting's black eyes were sharp and clasped her chin. "Prove it. Monitor Casa and break their lock." Mu Xue nodded and wiped her tears, fluttering her hands around the terminal, showing allegiance, but there was a calculation in her heart. "I obey, but he doesn't know the full blueprint." The iron and blood cleansing in the control room was like a Shura field. Lu Ting cleared out cabin after cabin. Military boots crushed the traitors' knees. Broken bones reverberated crisply. The dagger disemboweled the internal organs and slid out hot. The blood river converged and the deck was slippery. Dozens of ghost corpses were strewn across the room. The smell of burnt blood was as strong as hell. The traitor collapsed and screamed, "Devil!" Lu Ting washed the whole cabin with blood, his intestines were dragged on the floor, and his gun was overloaded. The traitor in the first project knelt down and begged for mercy, "Spare my life. I didn't know Xiao Yi sold the blueprints to the top management of Casa." Lu Ting snorted coldly, wiped his throat with a dagger, and blood sprayed on the wall in an arc. "The inner ghost will not be forgiven." Gu Han took advantage of the chaos to take off his handcuffs, and smashed Xiao Yi's deputy with his iron arm. Corpse, connected to the main control and roared, "Restart the engine 60%. Self-destruction freeze 10 seconds buffer." His fingers were like electricity, sweat evaporated, and the crew projection cheered, "Mr. Gu is out of trouble. The blue light of the engine wakes up, the thunder is alive." The communications sergeant said with tears, "Two heroes join forces, the traitor is finished." But the Casa main gun is charged, and the red beam engulfs the stern of the ship. Xiao Yi retreated to the core cabin, and pressed the relic resonator with a grin. The pulses of the uranium crystal console surged wildly, and blue light poured into the thunder system like a tide. The ship's hull shook like a star core erupting, and the alarm sounded, "Relic energy resonance. Space folding interference, risk of ship distortion 10-0%, total destruction countdown is 15 seconds. The outer space is silent and distorted, the crystal array above the Zell ruins is buzzing at high frequency, the space folds are like black hole vortices swallowing the light, the Casa ship's red cannon is suspended, and the captain's communication is interrupted with a grin, 'Well done, Xiao Yi. Resonance destroys the thunder. No, share the blueprint.' Ye Zhi's projection collapsed, the energy backfires. The blueprint is backed up 100%, but the interpretation shows, the traitor's plan is not only to sell Casa, but also to join forces with the ghosts in the alliance to destroy the crew's fleet in exchange for a high position in the empire." Mu Xue monitored the outer cabin, her face turned pale. Casa stood back and watched the battle, "The resonance has affected us." Lu Ting's black eyes locked on the core door, the mecha shield buzzed red and hot, the military uniform was spattered with blood and burned, and his arms were burning with pain, but he roared, "Gu Han, seal the resonance. Ye Zhi's data is uploaded to the Alliance headquarters, I will destroy Xiao Yi." Gu Han's iron tower body jumped on the console, the electromagnetic hammer smashed the resonance interface, sparks splashed and burnt the scorch marks on his iron arms, and the sweat evaporated, block 70%. But Xiao Yi's core is hiding, and the relic pulse is piercing the engine. His fingers clicked wildly, and the terminal's blue light veins when Rulon wakes up, a complete scan suddenly pops up, projecting the entire ship, full revelation. The blueprint is more than just the superlight cannon. The prototype of the Galactic Annihilator is hidden in Zell's core. The traitor Xiao Yi plus Mu Xue's contact person, the Alliance Admiral secretly made a deal with the intention of seducing the Casa. Invade the Fringe Star Field, destroy 90% of the Alliance fleet, and re-establish a new order. The evidence code is exposed, and the list of high-level insiders. The crew widened their eyes and gasped, oh my god. Mu Xue, she. Her body froze and her eyes flashed. Panicked, fake tears welled up, Mr. Gu misunderstood. I am innocent. Lu Ting noticed it and approached her with a dagger, say. But the core door exploded, Xiao Yi's pulse cannon blasted out, the blue beam rubbed Lu Ting's shoulder and the meat was sizzling. He groaned and dodged, and his iron fist hit the door frame and twisted it. The red light of the external Casa ship reappeared, taking advantage of the resonance chaos to fire a salvo of main guns. The red beam tore through the Thunder's shield. The stern of the ship burst into flames, metal fragments sprayed into the abyss of space like meteors, and the engine room screamed and broke. Lu Ting jumped back into the mecha, his red eyes filled with murderous intent, and went straight to the core. Xiao Yi, die. Gu Han shouted, the engine is 90%. Self-destruction is frozen, and the resonance is attenuated, but the list of insiders is being uploaded, and the high-level conspiracy is exposed. Ye Zhi hugged Yi and worshipped tremblingly, Captain, charge to the core. The end of the traitor. The communications sergeant shouted in tears, hero. But the third wave of Casa, the 3 destroyers were approaching with 0.03 light seconds, and the main guns were locked on the ruins. Mu Xue's red lips trembled, and she secretly fingered the chip, with shadows in her eyes. In the symphony of blood and fire, Lu Ting's mecha slammed open the core door, and the high-frequency buzzing of the plasma claws broke out. The galactic conspiracy opened like a black hole, and the iron-blooded captain marched forward in blood, and thunder roared in the silence of space. In the core cabin, the uranium alloy wall pulsed with blue light like the heart of a living creature. The heat wave mixed with the smell of burnt circuit ozone hit your nostrils. Xiao Yi's grinning figure was half hidden behind the laser net. The pulse barrel muzzle buzzed with heat and energy, and the blue beam locked on Lu Ting's mecha breastplate like a poisonous snake spitting a message. The T-77's red eyes burst with murderous intent, and the shield curve was only 15%, flashing a warning. The molten metal in the arms was dripping and evaporating. Lu Ting's black eyes were unblinking, the engine roared and rushed forward, and the plasma claws oscillated at high frequency and shrieked into the air. Xiao Yi roared, Captain Iron-Blooded. The blueprint has been passed to Casa, and the high-level insider will reward me with the Imperial Generalship. You die. The cannon beam burst, and the blue light penetrated the mecha's shoulder, and the energy backfired like thousands of needles piercing the bones. Lu Ting groaned and the fuselage rolled over, his claws scratched the wall, sparks scattered like metal debris like rain, and the alarm in the cabin was piercing, the core structure is damaged by 30%, and the vacuum leaks by 5%. External projection, the entire crew of the ship is huddled in a pile of corpses. His eyes widened, the communication sergeant's shoulder wound was bleeding, and his mouth was trembling, Captain's mecha is about to be destroyed. Xiao Yi's artillery fire suppressed it, the blueprint is lost and we are finished. Ye Zhi hugged the instrument, her pale face was stained with tears, and her delicate hands were tight. No, the data uploaded 99%, the conspiracy was exposed, but the captain. Gu Han smashed the console fragments with his iron arm, the scorched iron skin peeled off and the pain was like fire, and he roared, hold on. The engine is 100%, the main gun is online. Mu Xue's demonic body pressed against the bulkhead, her red lips trembled slightly and her eyes flashed in panic. The chip pulsed in the dark to transmit foreign aid. On the surface, she gasped, Xiao Yi is crazy. Captain, there is a heat source for the escape boat on the flank. He wants to run away. But shadows lingered in her heart. She had already backed up the fragments of the blueprint, and the Alliance Admiral's password was waiting for it. Xiao Yi laughed even more crazily when he heard that. The cannon barrage forced Lu Ting to retreat to the corner of the cabin. The mecha shield cracked red and cracked like a spider web. The energy overload alarm buzzed and concussed, countdown to shield collapse. 8 seconds. The crew projection collapsed and screamed, it's over. Xiao Yi pressed down and hit, the captain was bloody. The Casa destroyer was swallowed up by the red cannon in 0.01 light seconds. Gu Han's iron tower body rushed towards the auxiliary control, electromagnetic hammer smashing the blockade door wildly, sparks splashed and burned the flesh of his iron arm. 70% of the retreat is blocked. But the resonant resonance of the ruins will cause space distortion to attract mechas. Ye Zhi's projection interpretation popped up, and his voice trembled. Blueprint confirmed. Superlight weapons subvert the galaxy. The prototype of the Galaxy Annihilator can destroy 90% of the fleet. Xiao Yi traded Casa for a higher position. Mu Xue's chip channel, the Alliance Admiral's conspiracy. Lu Ting's mecha knelt down for a moment. The stench of burnt meat filled the air. Xiao Yi approached ferociously, holding the pulse gun on the mecha's mask. Kneel down. The thunder is mine. The despair of the entire ship was like a black hole, and the communications officer burst into tears. The hero has fallen. But Lu Ting's black eyes exploded, and the iron fist hit the seismic wave and cracked the deck. The fragments like projectiles came back to bite Xiao Yi's armor. The mecha bounced the plasma claw through the laser net and pierced Xiao Yi's chest. The high-frequency oscillation tore through the uranium alloy armor, and flesh and blood spurted out. Xiao Yi's eyes widened with blood bubbles in his throat. Impossible, your shield. The claws rotated to crush the heart, the corpse twitched and fell to the ground, the pulse barrel exploded and the fireball swallowed the surrounding wall, and the smell of burnt internal organs was strong. Lu Ting's mecha flashed red, and its shoulder cannon blasted away the heat source of the escape boat. Orange fire erupted into the abyss of space, and fragments scattered like meteors. The Zell ruins crystal array buzzed. Gu Han raised his iron arm high. Xiao Yi is dead. The core has been wiped out. Ye Zhi trembled and worshipped, with tears in her eyes. The captain has reversed. One man slaughtered the leader, and the core was bloodbath like a god of death. The communications sergeant covered his wound and gasped, his eyes widened in admiration. Iron-blooded invincible. The mecha is useless and it fights back. The traitor is frightened. The Casa fleet outside was blazing with red light. The patrol ship's main gun was swept by the aftermath, and the Thunder's tail was filled with flames and the metal screamed, but the blue light of the engine woke up. The shield curve rose by 40%, and the main gun ring warmed up and buzzed. Lu Ting jumped out of the mecha wreckage. His military uniform was spattered with blood and burned, his arms were burning with pain, and his black eyes scanned the entire ship's projection. Everyone listened to the order. The mutiny has been eliminated, and we are back in control of the control room. Gu Han, block the escape route of the entire cabin, and the engine is away from the interference of the ruins at full speed. Ye Zhi, upload the data to the Alliance headquarters, and the list of insiders is locked. Mu Xue, Casa coordinates, full frequency monitoring. Mu Xue's charming face nodded palely, her delicate hands flying around the terminal, and her red lips gasping, yes. Casa patrol ships A-17, B-22, destroyer group C-45, 0.008 light seconds away. The main gun is locked on the ruins, not us. Her charming eyes flashed with calculations, and the chip in her heart pulsed. Admiral, the blueprint is safe, the Thunder is temporarily stable. Gu Han's iron tower body threw himself at the controller, his sweat evaporated, and his fingers injected electricity into the firewall. The escape route is blocked 100%. The traitors' corpses are not alive, the virus paralyzed their communications, and Casa is blinded. The crew's projection cheered loudly, and the communications sergeant roared in tears. Vice captain is iron-blooded. Seal the rats, the engine roars, the way forward to space is open. Lu Ting's military boots slid onto the blood river and stepped onto the core stage. The dagger swiped the last blood stain on Xiao Yi's corpse's neck, and the arc of blood spurted the rusty wall. His black eyes locked on the entire projected blueprint. The superlight speed drive core veins were like the Milky Way star map. The blue light of the space-folding cannon swallowed the simulated fleet, and the Galaxy Annihilator prototype black hole vortex simulated the destruction of 90% of the ships on the edge of the galaxy. Subverting the situation. He muttered, sparks flew out as his iron fist hit the table, and the smell of burnt ozone was pungent. Ye Zhi's projection was at a close range, and her slender fingers flew to interpret, Captain. The guard mechanism of the ruins of Zell civilization is activated, and the resonance pulse awakens. But the blueprint confirmed that Xiao Yi was betrayed in exchange for the high position of Casa, and Mu Xue's chip channel directly contacted the Admiral. The Alliance's top officials conspired to destroy the cruiser fleet and rebuild the Imperial Alliance. The entire crew of the ship gasped with wide eyes, and the engineer fell to the ground in a pool of blood. She stood up and trembled, "Oh my God! The intelligence bitch is a traitor." But the captain captured the evidence and the conspiracy was exposed. Mu Xue's delicate body froze, and she cried with fake tears in her eyes, "Lu Ting, I am innocent. The chip is old, Xiao Yi forced me to provide the coordinates to prove my loyalty." Lu Ting pressed her chin with an iron finger embedded in the tender flesh, bloodshot eyes oozing out, her eyes trembled with pain. "Prove it. Counterattack Casa with full frequency, stop their sharing." The main gun ring of the Thunder was fully opened, and the blue and white beams tore through the abyss of space like a galactic dragon, penetrating the shield of the Casa patrol ship, exploding fireballs devouring the ship's bow, spraying metal fragments, the crystal array humming at high frequency, the destroyer group's red side flash energy waves swept across, the ship's body shook violently, but the roar of the engine was separated by 0.05 light seconds. Gu Han roared, the counterattack hit. The engine of the patrol ship A-17 was broken, and the main gun was paralyzed. The crew climbed up on the deck, and the pile of corpses in the river of blood cheered, "Captain's divine order." The main gun slaughters the Imperial dog, destroys the ship with one shot, and pays for the blood debt with blood. Lu Ting led the assault. Team landing craft, T-77 remnant armor was replaced with K-99 light combat suit, pulse rifle shoulder heat sink, his military boots crushed the wreckage of Xiao Yi escape boat, the evidence chip was fished out, the blueprint transaction password plus mole list projection popped up, the Admiral's code was naked. The whole team of soldiers widened their eyes and worshipped, Captain personally marched. Destroying the ship was like pinching an egg, the evidence was in hand, the top management was shaking. Ye Zhi remotely controlled the scan, and said excitedly, "The guard mechanism is confirmed to be activated, but the blueprint is safe." During a short repair, Lu Ting's arm was burned with nano-repair glue in the temporary hospital room on the back deck of the Thunder. The pain was like thousands of ants chewing his bones. However, his dark eyes took stock, the resources were full of uranium crystals and piled up like mountains. The blueprint backup was triple encrypted. The list of insiders was uploaded. The response from the Alliance headquarters flashed, "Heroes confirmed, reinforcements will be available for 2 hours." Gu Han bandaged his iron arm and reported calmly, 50% of the ship's hull has been repaired, 70% of the shield, the remnants of the rebels have been cleaned, and 300 corpses have been washed clean with blood. Ye Zhi hugged Cine and worshipped excitedly, "The data is fully interpreted, the superlight speed prototype simulation has overturned the battle situation, we are invincible." The communications sergeant's shoulder injury healed, and he admired with tears. "Distributing supplies, Captain's heavy hand. The whole ship will follow you to the death, iron-blooded glory." Mu Xue's demonic body changed into a tight-fitting battle suit, and her red lips were close to Lu Ting's ear. A cannon blasted out, and the plasma beam tore through the vacuum. The Casa patrol ship's shield exploded into fireballs. The hull broke into metal fragments like a meteor shower. The aftermath of the explosion shook the Thunder. The crew cheered, "Sink one. Captain's cannon." But the other 2 Casa ships fought back. The red beam penetrated the shield. The stern engine room was filled with flames. The smell of melt poured in from the ventilation. The alarm, engine damage. Destroy 50%, self-destruct in 30 seconds. Xiao Yi roared through the wall, "Lu Ting. You can't win. Come in and fight." Suddenly, Gu Han's figure was dragged into the side door of the control room. But suddenly, a high-frequency scream pierced the brain, and the whole ship's alarm exploded with red light flashing. The core of the ruins is activated. The alien defense beast is summoned. There are more than 10 biological heat sources. The space folding door is opened, and it goes straight to the landing craft. The projection popped up. In the crystal abyss, a group of black shadow beasts sprang out like ghosts. The metallic luster of the carapace reflected starlight, the blue light of the tentacles devoured the air, and the fangs dripped corrosive fluid to melt the deck. Lu Ting's dark eyes flashed, and he loaded his pulse gun. The whole team is ready for battle. The guard beasts are here. Go deep into the ruins, and seize the Galaxy Annihilator. Gu Han's iron arm holding the hammer trembled in shock. Zell guard, the legend came to life, tearing apart the cruiser with its claws. Ye Zhi screamed palely, the heat source is 500 degrees, the space jumps, blocking our core. The crew widened their eyes and gasped in fear. The crisis is coming again. Captain. The black abyss of space opened its mouth, the roar of the defensive beast echoed, the blue light tore through the landing craft shield, the iron blood rekindled, and the shadow of destruction rose sharply. The shield curve of the landing craft flashed wildly, with only 12% left. The blue light tentacles cracked the alloy bulkhead like ghost whip shadows, the sizzling corrosive liquid sprayed, evaporated and pungent, and a heat wave mixed with molten metal and ozone hit the face. More than a dozen heads of the herd were scurrying about, their carapace reflected the cold light of the star abyss like a dense tombstone. The space-folding door buzzed and distorted the air, the blue pulses between the fangs were preheated, and the tearing fragments of the boat body rained down on the crystal jungle of Zell ruins. The red light of the commando soldier's K-99 suit flashed sharply, and the pulse rifle fired a beam that deflected the beast armor without any effect. The screams echoed, the guard beast jumped. The heat source locked on the heart, the bullet melted. A soldier's breastplate was pierced, and flesh and blood spurted out and fell to the ground twitching. The flesh was filled with bubbling rot and white smoke filled the cabin. The stench filled the cabin like a furnace in hell. Lu Ting's military boots stepped firmly on the trembling deck, his black eyes locked on the projected heat source, the black and red burned arm nano-adhesive stringing pained the bone marrow. He put the pulse rifle on his shoulder and roared, "Blast the boat door. Go straight to the entrance of the ruins." Gu Han sealed the airlock at the rear of the boat, and Ye Zhi scanned the weak point of the beast. Gu Han's iron tower projection iron arm hit the auxiliary console and sparks spattered. His sweat evaporated and his fingers flew calmly. Yes. The remote hacking of the ruins network is activated. The firewall is like an iron wall. It will take 3 minutes. But he said, the voice trembled slightly, and the iron fist clenched the electromagnetic hammer. These beasts. Legend has it that Zell is an exterminator, and its claws tear the cruiser like paper. Ye Zhi held the instrument and her pale hands trembled. Fragments of the projection mural popped out, and the buzzing interpretation of the ancient talisman was interrupted. Heat source 500-degree core, space folds to avoid bullets, the weakness is unknown. Captain, the disadvantage is too great. The communications sergeant's shoulder injury has been newly healed, and the projection collapsed and screamed, the beasts are overwhelming. The boat shield is 5%, the soldiers are dead, and the inside of the boat is bloodbathed. It's over. Mu Xue's demonic body is pressed against the bulkhead in a tight-fitting battle suit, her red lips panting and her seductive eyes gleaming. She secretly steals the beast's heat source data with a handheld intelligence terminal, and a shadow hovers in her heart. The blueprint crystal is close at hand, and the Admiral's password is ready to be sent. She approached Lu Ting superficially, and her fragrant nose filled her nose with her slender hands to help him burn his arms. Captain, I will escort the flank. Casa retreated, but the resonance of the ruins increased. Lu Ting slightly raised his dagger to the soft flesh of her waist, and said coldly, follow closely. If you move, kill. She nodded with trembling eyes, and the chip backup quietly uploaded the map of beasts. The boat door exploded, tongues of orange fire spurted out, the crystal jungle at the entrance to the ruins buzzed with high frequency like thousands of insects gnawing at the ears, the wind howled in from the cold star abyss, the commando jumped out and fell into the crystal abyss, the broken crystals clicked under their feet, and the blue light veins were like living snakes swimming around the wall and swallowing. In the abyss passage, the black shadow beasts jumped forward in space, whipping the soldiers' uniforms with their tentacle claws, and the molten metal evaporated on the ground. The pulse gun beam penetrated the void to no avail, and screamed and vibrated, the claws ignore the shield. The heat melts everything, and there is no way out. A soldier's leg was broken off the blood fountain wall, and the rotten liquid soaked the bones and sizzled. The smell of rot was strong and mixed with the smell of burnt circuits. Lu Ting rushed forward and fired his pulse rifle to suppress it. The blue-beamed grazed beast armor was flying with sparks but only scratches. His K-99 light armor flashed wildly with low-energy warning, burning his arms like fire and pulling on his nerves, spread out. Mu Xue's information, Ye Zhi's weak point. Mu Xue's terminal flashed red and pretended to be coquettish. Flannel veins. But the traitor is ambushing the heat source, 50 meters ahead. The soldier stared wide-eyed and gasped, "You still believe the intelligence, bitch? The beasts crushed us to death, and the captain was isolated." Gu Han growled remotely and projected, "The hacking progress is 40%. The mechanical guard is activated and the passage is blocked." At the end of the passage, Ye Zhi's interpretation of the ancient wall mural projection popped up, the afterimage of Zelvin's starship swallowed up the black hole vortex, the alien behemoth devoured the star and destroyed the system, and the rune veins revealed, Annihilation Guardian, Invader Ash. Ye Zhixian's voice trembled, History of Destruction. The prototype of their self-destruction defense Galaxy Annihilator, behind the blueprint, a cosmic disaster, if the Galactic Alliance starts by mistake. But before he finished speaking, the mechanical guard suddenly woke up, the crystal wall burst and spewed out a swarm of ancient mechanical beasts, the alloy limbs buzzed and stretched, the red ice scan locked the invasion, the level crushed the cruiser shield, and the metal claws oscillated at high frequency and shrieked in the air. The remaining traitors sprang out from behind the ambush laser net, and Deputy Xiao Yi half-hidden his figure with a sinister smile, "Captain Zhao's death. You are not allowed to get involved in the insider's blueprint. The mechanical beasts share control and tear the iron-blooded dogs apart." The pulse cannon barrel accumulated red heat, and the blue beam of venomous snakes blasted the soldier's breastplate with a message. The explosive fireball swallowed the two people, and the flesh and blood fragments splashed on the crystal wall with red and black stickiness, and the smell of burnt internal organs was strong. The commando team collapsed at a disadvantage, and the soldier crouched behind his body with eyes wide and trembling in fear. The mechanical beast is invincible. The claws oscillate and melt K-99, the level is 10 times different, the traitors join forces, and the passage collapses without retreating. One soldier's arm was melted and he screamed and fell to the ground. The mechanical claws crushed his head and brains burst out and splashed on the ground, which was disgusting and sticky, and the smell of fishy plasma filled the air. Mu Xue's body flashed the laser, and her slim legs swept away the traitors. However, the chip in her secret hand pierced the veins of the crystal wall to steal the blueprint, and her charming eyes flashed with calculations. "Captain," the flank collapsed. 10 traitors, 5 mechanical heads. Lu Ting's black eyes were piercing. Pressing forward, the rifle beam penetrated the traitor's shoulder with a bloody hole, but the mechanical beast's claw whip hit the light armor. The oscillating wave penetrated the bone marrow and hurt like 1,000 swords. The shield was red and cracked with spider webs. He groaned and rolled over, and the old wounds on his arms were burned. Tearing bloodshot eyes oozing out, "Gu Han, speed up the hacking." Ye Zhi, clues from the mural. Gu Han's iron arms were sweating like rain as he smashed the table fragments into scorch marks, and his voice was rusty and hoarse and trembling. 60%. The system is like a black hole, Zell AI is eating back my brain waves, and I have a splitting headache. Ye Zhi held the instrument in a pale hand with tears on it and flying points. the annihilator is not a weapon, it is a carrier of the virus that destroys the universe. The blueprint is activated, the galaxy is completely destroyed, and the insider intends to spread. The traitor's deputy roared and fired the pulse cannon continuously. The blue light penetrated Lu Ting's leg armor and melted the molten metal. The energy backfired and pricked his nerves. He bent his knees slightly to support the bulkhead, and the soldier projection screamed in despair, "The captain can't suppress it." The mechanical beast's claws choked the throat, the traitor's artillery fire slaughtered the team, the river of blood was all over the ground, the thunder was over. The mechanical beast's red eyes exploded with murderous intent, and the alloy limb stretched out and hit the ground. The seismic wave cracked the crystal path. The debris projectile backfired and clinked on the deck of the team members. The corrosive aura mixed with blood was like a Shura field. Mu Xue pretended to save her life, her red lips pressed against Lu Ting's ears, and the scent was fragrant. The secret pulse of the chip was transmitted to the general, 80% of the blueprint, the guard is delaying. But the traitor's laser grazed the tender flesh of her shoulder and bloodshot eyes oozed, she gasped and cried out in pain, "Ah! They are crazy, Xiao Yi is deep inside the trap is activated." Lu Ting swung his dagger across the traitor's throat and sprayed rusty blood from the wall. He growled, "Deep down. Is Xiao Yi alive in the pile of corpses?" The soldier's eyes widened and he gasped in fear. "Captain. Fake your own death, share the machine with us." The buzzing in the depths of the passage intensified, and the mural was fully illuminated. The Milky Way destroyed image projection, Zell's fleet was wiped out, and the black hole virus devoured the galaxy. Ye Zhi screamed, "Clue! The blueprint hides the virus code." Instead of rebuilding the empire, the ghost in the top is summoning Zell's remnants to destroy the galaxy. Gu Han hacked into 75%, the veins of the iron arm bulged and roared in pain, AI counter control. The mechanical beast went berserk, its claw speed doubled. The mechanical beast pounced on Lu Ting, its claws oscillated and tore off the light armor, and the flesh and blood rolled out of his shoulders. The pain gnawed at his heart and his vision was filled with red mist. His iron fist smashed into the beast's eye, causing sparks to explode but only dents. The shield counted down for 3 seconds and buzzed with concussion. The whole team's despair was like a black hole. Behind the pile of corpses, the soldiers trembled, heroes have fallen. There is no solution to the machine. The traitors laugh at us and we are destroyed. The traitor's deputy approached the top of the gun with fury. Lu Ting's mask said, "Kneel down. Xiao Yi is waiting for you deep down, the blueprint will never belong to you." Alliance. The corrosive liquid dripped down the deck and the stench mixed with sweat and blood hit your nostrils. The warning projected by the thunderbolt outside the abyss of space was piercing, the commando's heat source has been reduced by 40%, reinforcements are still in 2 hours, and we can't hold on. Lu Ting's black eyes exploded with the cold light of the abyss, and the nanoglue on his burning arms burst into blood mist. However, his pulse rifle flicked its tail and smashed into the mechanical claw, the metal screamed and broke. His engine spurt forward and pierced the veins of the beast's belly. The blue beam exploded at close range and the red light swallowed the alloy internal organs. The fireball smashed into the traitor array like a meteor shower. The deputy's eyes widened with blood bubbles in his throat, "Impossible, the shield is destroyed and the beast is killed." Gu Han roared with projection, hacking 90%. Weakness uploaded, abdominal veins. Ye Zhi's slender body trembling in worship with tears, "God Captain. Kill the beast by one person, the mural unlocks the history of annihilation." The soldier stood up with eyes wide and trembling in admiration, iron-blooded invincible. The machine is broken, the traitor is scared to death. Mu Xue's pale red lips were slightly opened, and the chip in her heart was beating, the delay failed, the general was angry. Lu Ting continued, the K-99 light armor roared with red heat and overload, the rifle fired at the traitor and the laser net collapsed, flesh and blood spurted out of the crystal wall, the deputy's corpse knelt and twitched, evidence chips dropped and projected. Xiao Yi faked his death and was implanted in the deep layer, and the 5 remnants of the party set up a nuclear explosion trap. He trampled his military boots to pieces, smeared blood with his dagger, and fished out the blueprint with his iron fingers. The solid crystal veins were glowing like the heart of a galaxy, the core is in hand. But the crystal triggered a buzzing vibration, the entire ruins flashed with red light, and the self-destruction countdown projection bounced off. T-120 seconds, the space folding in collapse started, and the black hole vortex simulated swallowing the channel. The mechanical beast roared and rushed towards it, and the traitor's deep heat source sprang out and locked the pulse cannon. Gu Han roared, self-destruct. 70% of the passage is sealed, and the engine pulls the boat out. Ye Zhi screamed palely, virus code confirmed. Behind the blueprint, the universe is destroyed, the remnant of Zell is summoned, and the top brass of the Galaxy Alliance are involved. The soldiers' fear turned to fanaticism and they stared. The captain seizes the crystal. But Xiao Yi ambushes in the deep, self-destruction, and the bloody battle begins again. The whole ship cheered like thunder, the deck was flushed with blood and buzzed, the blue light awakened and the veins awakened like a dragon. The crew raised their guns and worshipped the projection, long live Lu Ting. The rebellion was bloodbathed, the conspiracy was shattered, the hero of the galaxy. Gu Han beat his chest with his iron fist and growled in admiration, Captain, your strength has soared, K-99 plus blueprint simulation, combat power doubled. Ye Zhi put her hands on the instrument and cried in admiration, the ruins scan has been upgraded, and our exploration is unimpeded. In the silence of space, the Thunder's engine hummed, and the Zell ruins crystal array faded and hummed. The brief silence was like a breath before a storm. The veins of the crystal wall deep in the channel flashed wildly with silver-blue arcs of lightning like a living dragon swimming around. The collapsing broken crystals fell like a torrential downpour with a crackling sound. The shock wave penetrated the bone marrow and the brain was about to burst. Lu Ting's military boots crushed the flesh and blood and splashed sticky red and black residue. The heat pipe of the pulse rifle puffed out red light to warm up. The abyss of black eyes locked on the dark heat source in front. 5 traitor figures were half hidden behind the alloy screen. The nuclear explosion device projected a red circle and counted down to T-45 seconds. The veins of green light crystals were like heartbeats, preparing to devour the entire area. The 2 alloy limbs of the remaining mechanical beast stretched out with red eyes and exploded with murderous intent. The high-frequency claws vibrated to tear the air and screamed to warm up. The corrosive liquid dripped onto the ground and sizzled in the molten cave. The heat wave evaporated, and the smell of blood and rust mixed with blood was as strong as Shura's purgatory. There were only 7 soldiers left behind the pile of corpses. The red light in their uniforms flashed wildly, and the projection roared in despair, nuclear explosion on the top. Mechanical claws locked the throat, traitors behind the screen and artillery fire, there is no way in the depths, Captain, we are reduced to ashes. A soldier's leg armor melted off the blood fountain Gulu, the bones were soaked in rotten liquid and white smoke swirled around, howling in pain and fell to the ground twitching, the smell of rotten plasma filled the air. Xiao Yi's figure slowly emerged from behind the screen. The projection of the fake dead body collapsed into a phantom. The corners of his charred military uniform were twisted into a sinister smile. A pulse pistol was placed on his forehead to charge a poisonous blue message, iron-blooded dog, the blueprint crystal is holding your hands and burning your hands. The summoning code for Zell's residual spirit has been backed up, and the high-level ghost has spread it all over the network. Suddenly the heat source of the attack team is attenuated by 50%, and it will self-destruct for 110 seconds. They will kneel down and pass it to the general, or they will be buried with a nuclear explosion. The 5 traitor remnants' laser nets spread out like red lines and intertwined like spider webs. The mechanical beast pounced with its front paws and whipped the soldier's chest armor. The metal screamed and broke. The flesh and blood rolled around the crystal wall and became disgusting and sticky. One soldier's eyes widened. Hit with a blood bubble, Captain faked his death, joined with Casa to share the machine. We are human shields, it's over. Ye Zhi held the crystal in her pale hands and trembled. The scanner buzzed, the projection of the ancient talisman bounced off the galaxy, and the image disappeared and rotated. The black hole virus vortex devoured the fleet's afterimage. She screamed, crystal interpretation. It's not a simple blueprint. Embedded with the Zell remnant virus, the high-level alliance generals colluded with the Casa Empire, and planned to accidentally activate the Annihilator to trigger a war in the Edge star field, to gain war wealth and rebuild the Empire. The entire chain of evidence. Before she finished speaking, Xiao Yi's pulse gun swept her instrument with sparks, bursting fragments, and projectiles clanking on the deck. Lu Ting's heart flashed with lightning. His arms were burning with nanoglue and the pain was eating away at his nerves, and the flesh on his shoulders and legs was rolling and sticky with hot blood. However, his dark eyes were unwavering, and his mind was running at high speed. The Mu Xue chip stole the veins, the fragrant nose pretended to escort and delayed the opportunity. All of them were in line with the clues of the mole. The high-level conspiracy was exposed, and they arrested her to cut off her tail and counter-control the situation. Mu Xue's body was pressed against the crystal wall, her tight-fitting suit's shoulders were bloodshot and red, outlining the seductive curves. Her charming eyes flashed with a fake smile. Captain, Xiao Yi's nuclear explosion has been activated, and the ship is evacuating. The intelligence confirms that the Casa destroyer C-45 is reorganized, and the resonance sharing is broken but approaching. She secretly pressed the pulse of the chip with her delicate hand, projecting a hidden message to the general. The crystal was lost, the residual spirit code was backed up, and the plan to detain Lu Ting was initiated. Lu Ting swung the dagger out to touch the soft flesh of her waist and stabbed half an inch into the soft flesh of her waist. He clasped her thin neck with the iron fist of his other hand and pulled her closer. The fragrant smell was mixed with the blood and stabbed her brain. He spoke in a low voice like the abyss, evidence of the mole, the projection of the chip. Mu Xue's red lips were slightly open and she struggled seductively, her evil eyes flashed with poisonous calculations, and her mind was spinning, exposed. Delay the nuclear explosion and kill him, and the blueprint backup is uploaded. The soldiers widened their eyes and gasped in fear and then in shock. Intelligence bitch, the traitor. The red light of the chip is uploaded to the admiral, colluded with the senior management of Casa. The traitor laughs at us stupid. Ye Zhi, pale and slender, trembling in admiration, stared at Lu Ting with tears. Captain, the devil is broken. Break the chain of the inner ghost, the conspiracy is exposed. Gu Han projected his iron arm and smashed the table, causing sparks to fly, and roared hoarsely, 95% hacked. The mechanical weakness of the abdominal veins is fully transmitted, and the heat source of the Casa fleet is forced into the ruins. Outside, the engines of the 3 destroyers are firing, and the space abyss projection is warning. The situation is expected to be over in 5 minutes. Xiao Yi laughed wildly and locked Lu Ting's mask. What if the bitch is exposed? The nuclear explosion will crush you and burn your corpse. The mechanical beast's alloy claws vibrated and whipped, and Lu Ting pressed her knees against Mu Xue's monster body. She gasped in pain and sprayed red marks on her shoulders. The vibration of the claws only scratched the fuse of her suit, and the inner ghost's human shield resolved the crisis. Mu Xue's charming face was distorted and filled with hatred, and her slender fingers grabbed Lu Ting's arm, burning the nano-glue and tearing it apart, and the pain intensified, but she pretended to cry in a charming voice, Captain, spare your life. I made a deal to stop the war for the Admiral, and shared the blueprint to stop the war. The shadow in her heart roared, the fake surrender backfired, and the chip self-destructed and erased the evidence. Lu Ting's psychological game is like an interstellar storm, spare her. The intelligence network is down, and the high-level officials are endlessly chasing her, kill her. The evidence was destroyed and the general denied the conspiracy. The black eyes flashed with determination, and the iron fingers crushed her chip. The red glow exploded and the projection bounced off, the Admiral's password, the CASA transaction record, the residual spirit code backup chain, all exposed to the Galaxy channel. The soldiers all widened their eyes in admiration and trembled with bloody gasps in their throats. The chip is broken. All the insiders are recorded, the high-level officials are seducing CASA for profit, and the captain has an iron fist and breaks the chain of conspiracy with one pinch. Ye Zhi, with tear-stained hands, covered her mouth in worship, exposed the entire network. The Alliance headquarters will be shaken, and the general will jump over the wall. Xiao Yi's face was ashen, and the pulse gun wildly fired blue beams through the crystal wall to swallow fireballs. The flesh and blood of a member of the traitor was splattered with gulu, and he roared ferociously, "Useless bitch." Mechanical rage, nuclear explosion. The mechanical beast's red eyes exploded and pounced on Lu Ting, its claws locked throat and oscillated, and the bone-gnawing pain was like plasma. His shield cracked and the cobwebs of the K-99 light armor roared with red heat and overload. Gu Han's iron roar projected, hacked 100%. The relic network is counter-controlled, the sharing of mechanical beasts is cut off, and the nuclear explosion is delayed for 30 seconds. Lu Ting took advantage of the momentum and rushed forward, the engine spray rolled over, and the dagger swiped Xiao Yi's throat in an arc of blood and sprayed the wall with rusty heat. He stepped on the nuclear device with his military boots and smashed the green crystal veins with his iron fist. The remnants of the traitors' lasers collapsed and they knelt down in agony with howls. The soldiers rushed forward frantically and fired pulses of blood, covering the ground with a river of red, black and sticky blood. The strong smell of burnt viscera mixed with the corrosive heat wave. Xiao Yi's throat twitched and his eyes widened with blood bubbles. Fake death, blueprint, high-level officials. The corpse knelt on the ground, and the evidence ended. Ye Zhi scanned the silver light and swallowed the crystals completely. The residual spirit virus is confirmed. The top management plans to spread the war and exchange the CASA empire for the Edge Star field to profit from trillions of uranium crystals. The channel has a 90-second countdown to self-destruction. The crystal wall collapses like a black hole vortex, the shattered crystals rain heavily and the bullets and armor jingle, and the rotten heat wave hits the face with the stench of sweat and blood. Lu Ting fought back with his iron fist and cuffed Mu Xue's arms. The nanolocks clicked, and her demonic body twisted and shed tears of hatred. "Captain, you ruin everything. The Admiral will destroy your entire ship." His black eyes were piercing with cold light, and he whispered, "Iron and blood will never destroy the conspiracy. Bring him back for trial." The soldier knelt down in admiration and trembled, "Arrest the traitor. The captain is wise and brave, the god counterattacks the nuclear explosion, and the thunder is immortal." Gu Han projected his iron arm and held a hammer to seal the collapse road, the back of the boat. The airlock opens. The heat source of the CASA destroyers C-45, D-12, and E-33 is locked outside the ruins. It presses into the environment in 3 minutes and the main gun is charged. The space abyss projection bounces off, the CASA ship's shadow above the thunder warps the space and folds. The black hole-like alloy densely reflects the cold light of the star abyss. The blue shield curve flashes and warms up. The destroyer's level is twice that of the cruiser. The pulse main gun spits out red light like the teeth of a giant beast. The heat wave steamed in the cabin of the landing craft, and the commando team dragged Mu Xue back. There were only 5 remaining soldiers, their battle suits were stained with burns and blood, and the projection alarm was piercing, self-destruction in 70 seconds. The passage is completely collapsed, the boat shield is 20%, and the engine is up. Lu Ting sat in the assistant control position and locked the holographic star map with black eyes, and the storm in his heart reappeared. CASA raided, reinforcements were sent for 2 hours, and the high-level conspiracy was exposed or backfired, and the plan was to fight against the broken tail, or the escaped ruins were blown away. The high-level officials hooked CASA, and the thunder is alone, destroying the enemy and intimidating them. He turned on the pulse communication at full frequency and roared like thunder, "Thunder, the entire ship is ready for combat. The main guns are locked on the Casa C-45 and D-12, the secondary guns are pressing the E-33, the shields are fully opened, the engines are moving sideways to resonate with the ruins, and the self-destruction wave will be detonated to attack the enemy group. The communication sergeant's young face turned pale and his fingers flew wildly. I obey. The crew swears to death, the captain has a brilliant plan. Gu Han's iron fist projected from the iron tower hit the stage, the engine sprays, the wind roar in the silent abyss of space intensifies, the red light of the ruin swallows the stern of the boat, the retreat accelerates. The door of the boat exploded, orange flames spurted out, and the crystal shattered like a meteor shower hitting the starry abyss in silence. The engine of the landing craft roared and pulled up to escape from the black hole vortex, simulating a collapse, and the buzzing shook the cabin and devoured the brain. After 60 seconds of self-destruction, the ruins all lit up with red light and the space folded and collapsed. The crystal jungle collapsed and the silver-blue electric arc whipped into the void. The Casa destroyer jumped out of the folding door, its giant alloy body buzzed and its shield curved and flashed. The blue beams of its three main guns locked onto the thunder like poisonous dragons. The energy waves twisted the abyss of space and sent stardust flying. The Thunder cruiser's engine sprayed back and the huge hull moved sideways. The 70% curve of the shield flashed wildly and the blue beam hit. Sparks scattered and metal screamed. The deck trembled like an earthquake. The smell of burning ozone filled the nose through the communication. The crew's projection collapsed and screamed, then turned to roaring, Casa pressure. Twice the level difference, the main gun melts the armor, the captain moves to avoid the relic wave. Gu Han roared hoarsely, resonance induction. Self-destruction wave lock C-45 and D-12. Lu Ting pointed out the star map and played a psychological high-speed game. There are 3 enemies and one of us, destroying 2 and cutting off the group. The self-destruction wave level of the ruins ignores the shield and annihilates the prototype, and outsmarts the savage. The main gun's orange-red charged burst fired through the weak point of the C-45 shield, the blueprint space-folding gun's auxiliary fire distorted the enemy formation, and the E-33 secondary gun suppressed it. The Thunder's main gun roared and the orange-red beam tore through the abyss of space. A fireball penetrated the C-45 alloy nose and swallowed the bridge. Explosive fragments were scattered across the abyss like meteor showers. The remains of the body rolled and hit the metal of D-12 side armor with a deafening sound. The shield collapsed and the red spider web cracked. The ruins self-destructed for 40 seconds. The red light exploded into a black hole vortex simulation. The space-folding wave swallowed the C-45 tail engine and the silver-blue electric arc whipped. The hull twisted and turned into ashes. The level of crushing was ineffective. The D-12 aftermath shield evaporated and the alloy liquid dripped into space. The whole crew widened their eyes and trembled in admiration. Destroy 2 ships. The relic wave god counterattacked, Casa scared off, the captain's tactical genius is invincible. Ye Zhi, pale and slender, hugged the crystal and worshipped with tears, destroy the enemy with wisdom. The high-level conspiracy was exposed, the galaxy was shaken. Mu Xue's demonic body was cuffed and her demonic eyes were staring with hatred, and her heart collapsed. The admiral was angry, and the plan was shattered. The E-33 destroyer's remnant engine sputtered and retreated. The blue beam swept across the tail of the Thunder and caused melt marks on the Thunder's wing armor, but the shield remained stable. The communications sergeant's projection was ecstatic, Casa retreats. The 2 ships flew into ashes, Thunder's glory. However, the full-frequency piercing alliance reinforcement signal bounced off, the 2 cruisers' heat sources jumped to arrive, and the projection admiral's face was ashen and grinned. The Thunder obeys the order. Lu Ting is suspected of collusion with the traitor, and he is immediately detained and returned to the headquarters for trial. Blue the crystal was handed over, and the ship was destroyed in violation of the order. The crew's projection collapsed and their eyes widened in fear. They turned to anger, the reinforcements are being detained. The captain has turned into a thief. Lu Ting's black eyes blazed with the cold light of the abyss. He held the crystal in his hand and uttered an iron-blooded oath. The conspiracy is overwhelming, the top management will be bloodied, and the galaxy will be reborn. The wind howls and the silent abyss of space intensifies, the annihilating storm opens its mouth, the thunder's engine roars forward, and the crisis is endless. The silent abyss of space swallows up stardust like an endless black curtain. The thunder cruiser's engine sprays back and the huge hull trembles and moves sideways. The 70% shield curve flashes wildly and the orange-red afterglow reflects the debris of the wreckage and jingles on the deck. The smell of ozone burnt mixed with blood and rust hits the cabin pungently through the ventilator. The folding doors of the two cruisers of the Alliance's reinforcements jumped open and the giant alloy bodies pressed into the environment. The blue main guns charged up and spit out red light like the teeth of beasts. The projected admiral's iron-green face roared in full frequency, and the roar echoed in the cabin, improved evidence of Lu Ting's betrayal. The blueprint crystal was handed over immediately, the Thunder's shield was unloaded and the engine was shut down, and the assault boat boarded. The ship was seized, and the ship was destroyed for defiance. The crew collapsed, eyes wide, pale, trembling, blood bubbles in their throats. The young communication officer's face was twisted with fear, and his fingers were stiff. The main guns of the reinforcements are locked. Two ships of the same level are approaching, and the captain revealed that he is a hero, and gray veins are flying in the iron tower. A sudden headache, a hoarse roar, an iron fist hitting the platform, and sparks flying, engine overload alarm. The shield remains stable, but the melt marks on the wing armor spread, and the heat wave steams the cabin. The Casa E-33 retreats from the heat source, but the main jump signal soars. Ye Zhi, pale and slender, hugged the crystal body, swallowed the silver glow, trembled in admiration, and stared at Lu Ting with tears in the assistant control position. The captain is planning to destroy. The top management of the two Casa ships jumped over the wall and detained them. The residual spirit virus was all exposed and they panicked. Mu Xue's demonic body was handcuffed behind her back and locked in the corner of the detention room. The blood-dried red marks on the shoulders of her tight-fitting suit outlined her curves. Her charming eyes flashed with hatred and she whispered in her heart, reinforcements were approaching, the nanolock was loosening and the countdown to self-destruction was on. She faked crying to break out of jail and kill this iron dog. Lu Ting is sitting in the assistant control position, his black eyes are exploding with cold light, his arms are burning and the nanoglue drawing is worsening, and the pain is like 10,000 frogs eating bones. The heat wave is steaming, the sweat and blood are smelly, the blood and flesh on his shoulders and leg armor are rolling and sticky, but he holds the crystal entity firmly with an iron hand, and the silver-blue veins are pulsing. The interstellar storm in the mind is running at high speed. The high-level conspiracy is exposed on the Galaxy channel, the reinforcements are fake and the real ones are silenced. The main force of Casa will take advantage of the chaos to suppress the situation. The Lone Thunder is fully loaded with uranium crystal blueprint triple encryption, outflank and cut off the enemy group. The full-frequency roar was like thunder that exploded the bulkhead and trembled. The whole ship obeys the order. The shield is fully opened. The main gun locks the reinforcement A-17 and the secondary gun presses the B-22, the engine side returns to the remnant wave resonance induction, the space-folding gun auxiliary fire distorts the Casa jump point. Gu Han overloads the engine and rushes at the speed of light, Ye Zhi blueprint virus code hacking into the enemy's flagship system, the crew's eyes widened in despair and their blood boiled with excitement. I obey. The captain is invincible, and his tactics are amazing. The communications sergeant said with flying fingers, full combat readiness. Thunder and glory. The folding door of the sudden space abyss exploded for more than 10 times. The main fleet of the Casa Empire sprang out like a swarm of black hole behemoths. The flagship, Castellan, heavy cruiser, the 3-kilometer-long alloy Sinsen shield, flashed in purple and black curves and swallowed stardust. The 5 destroyers' sanitation engine sprayed blue flames to distort the space. The green light of the main gun accumulated energy like a poisonous dragon. The E-33 remnant ship merged into the heat source and soared to full frequency. The grinning Casa language harsh translation projection, the Alliance is in internal strife. Destroy the Thunder to seize the remnants of the blueprint, and the Admiral promises sovereignty over the Edge star field. The enemy's flagship's main gun blasted with green beams and tore apart the silent abyss. The reinforcements A-17 took advantage of the chaotic blue beam to sidesweep the shield curve and crack the cobweb. The crew cabin staggered and blood spurted out from the crystal wall. The projection screamed and collapsed. CASA's main force is pressing the situation. The flagship level has been tripled, the main gun melted the armor, the reinforcements pretended to buckle and joined forces. Captain, our human shields turned to dust. Guhan the Iron Roar projection's iron arm held a hammer and smashed the engine platform, and sparks flew everywhere. Overload start. The engine's drawing heat eats the bone marrow, and the speed of light rushes to store energy. Ye Zhi's fingers flew, the silver light swallowed blueprint virus code buzzed in the scanner, and the ancient talisman projected a rotating black hole vortex to simulate a hacking wave and locked the Castellan flagship. Lu Ting's black-eyed holographic star map psychological game is like an electric storm. The enemy's main force is crushed by 10 flagships, reinforcements and internal ghosts join forces. The shield is on the verge of collapse. He first detours around the ruins and attacks Casa to expel him, then rushes in at the speed of light to outflank the flagship's weakest engine, and the blueprint virus interferes with sharing. The Iron Pointer commanded in a low voice. The main gun's orange-red energy-charged blast blasted the Casa to expel the F-7G-9, the secondary gun pressed the E-33, the space-folding cannon started the twisted reinforcement jump, and the engine whirled into the black hole vortex of the ruins. The Thunder's main gun roared, and the orange-red beam tore through the abyss of silence, penetrated the nose of the F-7 shield, exploded, rained down fragments, and hit the G-9 side armor with a loud noise. The metal twisted and whined, and the shield evaporated, alloy liquid dripped, and the heat wave of space steamed into the cabin. The crew widened their eyes and trembled in admiration and roared, "Destroy too!" Captain's divine cannon locks the weak point, and the Casa crowd is in chaos. But the green beam of Kazaran's flagship penetrated the deep hole in the wing armor and the orange-red electric arc whipped into the void. The deck shook like an earthquake, and the flesh and blood residue splashed sticky. The shield was overloaded with 30% red light and roared. One crew member's leg was broken and the blood spring guru fell to the ground, twitching and howling in pain. The flagship green cannon gnaws at the bones. There is no solution for the level difference, and the reinforcements are locked in a blue beam. Mu Xue's demonic eyes flashed, the nanolock clicked loose, and her hand secretly pressed the hidden pulse device. Her demonic body twisted and pretended to cry to distract the escort. She fell to the ground with her knees on her crotch and sprayed the rusty heat on the bulkhead with a blood arc. She grabbed the gun and swept it with a blue light and rushed towards the auxiliary control position. Death to the Iron Dog. Admiral, destroy your entire ship. The escorting soldier's eyes widened in fear and gasped in anger. The mole has escaped from prison. The murderous witch is backlashing. Lu Ting stood up with his iron fist and used the spinning dagger to nail Mu Xue's shoulder. The flesh and blood rolled up and became sticky. She gasped, twisted and roared with hatred, and rushed forward. The blue beam of the pulse gun wiped the mask, causing sparks to explode. The smelly glue stung her nose, but Gu Han's projected iron arm stretched out the alloy pliers to crush her. Sparks splashed from the gun barrel, and the monster's face turned pale. Ye Zhi screamed and projected the virus code on her hands, interference injection. Castellan's sharing is cut off, and the heat source of the flagship engine is reduced by 40%. Castellan's flagship projection collapsed, and the Casa commander's iron face twisted and the green light went out of control, sweeping away his own army, expelling H-11, the shield cracked, the fireball swallowed the gray flying star abyss. The crew trembled with fanatical admiration. Dr. Yi is terrifying. If the inner ghost continues to suppress him, the captain will be invincible. Lu Ting roared, Gu Han, charge at the speed of light. Surround the flagship's abdominal veins. Gu Han's veins exploded in the iron tower and he roared hoarsely, overloaded by 120%. The engine is wired and the nerve-gnawing heat wave is burning the bones. Suddenly, enter. The Thunder's engine roared, blue flames sprayed out, the ship lifted up at the speed of light, and the warped silent abyss simulated a black hole. The space-folding wave swallowed up the Kasserine, and the tail alloy wailed and broke. The huge body of Kasserine's flagship rolled and its purple-black shield collapsed into cobwebs. The green beam of the main gun missed the target and swept the reinforcements' A-17's side armor. Flames sprayed out orange. The reinforcements' crew members screamed in fear. Kasser accidentally hit. The blueprint virus eats the system. Thunder God outflanks. 2. The space-folding cannon twisted the Kasser remnant group to jump, and the uranium crystals were fully loaded with energy bombs and fired wildly at the flagship bridge. The red light of the Thunder's secondary gun blasted the B-22 shield curve and flashed hard. The space-folding cannon's silver and blue vortex opened to expel the Kasser remnants, the heat source twisted and flew away, and the energy bombs penetrated the Castellan bridge glass like a meteor shower. Debris clanged in space, and the projection of Commander Kassa's iron tower collapsed in green blood-spattered Golem. His alloy armor was charred and black, his arms were broken, and he knelt down, trembling, eyes rounded in fear. The remnants of the blueprint. The virus has been cut off from sharing. The list of ghosts in the Alliance, Admiral Zell, Lieutenant General Karen. The communications sergeant's fingers flew to capture the projection and trembled with ecstasy. Shake, full record of prisoners' data. All high-level traitors, Admiral Zell's mastermind, the galaxy is shaken. Projections of the entire crew widened their eyes in admiration and shouted with tears, destroy the flagship. Capture the commander, divine tactics of light speed outflank, Captain Lu Ting is invincible. Dr. Ye's virus is destroyed, and Deputy Gu's engine is overloaded and bloody. The engine of the ruined Kassa ship sputtered and retreated, the heat source attenuated and the folding door collapsed and escaped into the star abyss. Reinforcements A-17. The B-22's shield collapsed and the blue beam exploded out of control. The fireball swallowed up the alloy droplets and evaporated. The projection admiral's face was ashen and he roared, list of traitors. Lu Ting, you are destroying the galaxy. The Thunder's shield was reorganized. 40% of the engine was brushed. The heat wave steamed the cabin. The smell of blood was mixed with burnt rust. The whole ship was a bloody victory. The orange lights flashed wildly. After the crew's projection collapsed, they knelt down in a frenzy and trembled, with hot blood pumping from their throats. Victory. The main force of Kassa was wiped out, the evil within the top management was revealed, the captain was wise and brave, a tactical genius, the Thunder is immortal. Gu Han's iron arm projection and iron fist smashed into celebration, overload shutdown. The residual heat of the engine gnaws at the bones, but the victory. Ye Zhi was pale and slender in tears. Guan worshipped and held the crystal, interpretation of the traitor list. General Zell seduced more than 10 senior officials of Kassa, and the conspiracy to annihilate was shattered. Lu Ting's black eyes held the crystal in his abyss, and he spat out the silver light. His arms burned with pain as he swallowed the overloaded shoulder, and blood oozed sticky. Alliance, bloodbath the top management. The communications sergeant projected with ecstasy, yes. But the military court is over, and Admiral Zell's detention order has been upgraded to the entire network. The wind roar in the silent abyss of space intensified, the Thunder's engine roared forward and folded, the galactic storm was reborn, the military law prison opened its mouth, Lu Ting's black eyes burst into flames and vowed to be immortal. The silent abyss of space is twisted like a black hole feeding stardust. The blue flames of the Thunder cruiser's engine are faintly licking the wings of the deep hole, the molten edges of the molten metal are ticking and evaporating in space, and the ozone burnt rust and blood mixed with the breather pipe are pungent and hit every inch of the deck in the cabin. The shield curve was 40% orange and flashed wildly to withstand the aftershocks of the residual wave. The crew's projection was pale and trembling, and blood bubbles were sucked out of the throat. The young communications officer's face was twisted and his fingers stiffened while locking the holographic star map. The military law fleet is approaching. 5 heavy patrols, the Iron Prison, are leading the way, and Admiral Zell is personally leading it. The seizure order was upgraded throughout the network, the main gun locked on the engine heat source, the jump door folded and exploded, and the alloy was thick and heavy. Gu Han's iron tower projection showed bruises and a headache, and he roared hoarsely. His iron fist hit the engine platform and sparks flew everywhere. The return track is sealed and the uranium crystals are full. The encrypted blueprint is being uploaded, but the high-level officials jumped over the wall and silenced them first. Ye Zhi, pale and slender, hugging the crystal body, the silver glow pulsing and trembling with tears, stared at Lu Ting Fu's control position. The full list of traitors was exposed, and the Galaxy channel was shocked. They accused the hero of passing the blame, and God's conspiracy to destroy the conspiracy was panicked. Mu Xue's demonic body was handcuffed behind her back and held in the corner of the detention cell by a nanolock. Her shoulders were covered with blood, new wounds were wet and sticky, and her tight-fitting battle suit outlined her seductive curves. Her flirtatious eyes flashed with poisonous hatred and she whispered in her heart, the high-rise iron prison was under pressure, and the nanolock's countdown to self-destruction remained. The remnant party counterattacked on the verge of pretending to collapse. Lu Ting was sitting in the assistant control position, his black eyes were exploding with cold light from the abyss, his arms were burning and the nanoglue drawing was getting worse and worse, and the pain was like 10,000 frogs gnawing at his bones. The heat wave was steaming with sweat and blood, and his shoulders and legs were full of flesh and blood, sticky and oozing with armor. But he held the crystal veins firmly with an iron fist and breathed silver and blue, and the interstellar storm in his mind was running at high speed. Returning to the Alliance headquarters, surrounded by iron prisons, the mastermind of the high-level Ghost Zell detained the fake rebels and was actually silenced. The crew members pledged their blood to escort him, and the evidence was triple encrypted with virus codes waiting to be exploded. The full-frequency roar was like thunder exploding the bulkhead and trembling. The whole ship obeys the order. The shield is unloaded and the main gun is cooled down. The engine slows down and docks at the nearest ship. The communication uploads the blueprint crystal plus prisoner projection plus Mu Xue chip chain. Gu Han and Ye Zhi provide evidence, and the crew swears to protect them. My body. The crew member's projection turned from victory fever to despair, his eyes were pale and trembling, and the blood in his throat was frozen. Yes. Danzel's dog buckles the hero, the military law's iron prison swallows thunder. How can the captain's iron-blooded invincible fall into the trap? The main ship of the iron prison has 3,000 alloy bodies. Misensen presses forward, the curve of the blue-black shield swallows stardust, the main cannon swallows red energy-charged beast fangs, and the projection of Admiral Zell's livid face roars with a full-frequency piercing roar that echoes in the cabin. Improved evidence of Lu Ting's rebellion. The blueprint is handed over immediately, and the assault boat is boarded and seized. Attack everyone, the defiant ship will be destroyed. The landing craft sprang out like a swarm. The alloy hooks clicked and buckled. The airlock door of the Thunder exploded and a heat wave hit the face. The military law commando armor was filled with black holes, the muzzle was locked with a blue light, and the throat was locked. The smell of burning glue mixed with blood and rust was pungent. Lu Ting stood up, with piercing black eyes, took the initiative to remove his armor, stretched out his wrists, and locked the nanocuffs with a click. His arms were burning with pain and bloodshot threads were oozing out, but he sneered and said in a low voice, Admiral Zell, upload all the blueprint crystals plus evidence, you are the mastermind of the traitor list. The commando's eyes widened with trembling alloy gloves, and he held his alloy hook stiffly and dragged him out of the hatch. The crew collapsed and knelt down, trembling and crying, Captain, the iron-blooded hero. The high-level dog buckle is not guilty, and the Thunderbolt blood guards. Gu Han's iron-armed projection iron. The fist hit the stage and sparks flew out, and he roared hoarsely, Vice Captain Gu Han testifies. Scientist Ye Zhi prepares the virus code. Lu Ting's tactics to annihilate the main force of CASA reveal the conspiracy. Ye Zhi's pale and slender hands held the crystal in tears, worshipping the projection and following God's plan. The blueprint of the remnant spirit proves that the high-level officials hooked up with CASA to destroy the galaxy. Mu Xue's demonic eye flash machine nano-locked the dark pine demon's body and falsely trembled behind the cabin, and her fingers secretly pressed the implanted chip with low-frequency pulses to contact the remnants on the edge. Zell was suppressed by the iron prison, Lu Dog was arrested, and it was time to counterattack. The Alliance headquarters, the Ring Fortress, is surrounded by a steel fortress in the heart of the galaxy. The Thunderbolt drags the molten deck and docks at the giant shipyard, buzzing with blue light scans. The military prison sanitation engine sprays heat waves to steam the air, smelling of rust and blood. The high-hanging holographic projection of the trial hall's alloy dome shocked hundreds of millions of people. The live broadcast of the Milky Way channel shocked hundreds of millions. Admiral Zell's figure in the Iron Tower stood on the platform, his sinister face twisted with green veins, and the roar of the projection echoed in the hall. The hall was buzzing, improved evidence of Lu Ting's rebellion. Internal strife on the Thunderbolt destroys reinforcements. A-17B, 22, the CASA transaction blueprint betrayed the Alliance, and the evidence chip forged the virus code, and the military law summarily executed it. The high-ranking generals watched with eyes wide open and whispered, and the audience's channel barrage collapsed and trembled in fear. The hero has been arrested? Zell is eager to accuse him. Is the list of high-ranking insiders real? Lu Ting was handcuffed behind his back and stared at Zell with dark eyes. His arms were burning, his shoulders were bleeding, and his armor was sticky, but he said in an iron-blooded voice. Chain upload, Commander CASA projected your transaction. Mu Xue's chip was backed up, the residual spirit virus code was hacked into the flagship, and the sharing was stopped. Zaire laughed ferociously and smashed the platform with sparks, roaring, perjury. Lu Ting, you destroyed the honor of the galaxy. The commando soldier's alloy hook pressed against his throat and the blue light gun was sizzling. Gu Han's figure from the Iron Tower was pushed into the hall, with scorched veins on his iron arms, hoarse roar, iron roars like thunder, and the dome trembled. Vice Captain Gu Han testifies. The engine was overloaded and rushed at 120% of the speed of light to outflank the Castellan flagship. Lu Ting's tactical orange-red main gun penetrated the belly of the engine. The green crystal veins were devoured by blue light. Fire rain poured down, and the shield collapsed on the spider web bridge. The explosive commander knelt down and green blood sprayed out from the projection. Zell, you hooked CASA. The projection in the hall was wide-eyed, pale and trembling, and the whispers turned to fear, iron-blooded testimony. CASA's main force 10 ships flew away. Ye Zhi, pale and slender, held the crystal entity silver light and worshipped the projection virus code spinning black. Cave vortex simulation, relic scientist Ye Zhi provides evidence. The blueprint scanned residual spirit virus is injected into the Kazaron shared engine, which is attenuated by 40%. The list of traitors is interpreted. Admiral Zell, Lieutenant General Zell and Lieutenant General Karen are the masterminds of more than 10 high-level transactions to destroy the galaxy. The conspiracy to destroy the galaxy is fully exposed. The holographic projection explodes. The Khazar commander's iron face is twisted and he kneels and trembles. The green-blooded guru said, Zell promised marginal sovereignty. The blueprint remnant soul exchange alliance collapsed. The virus code wave locked on Zell's personal terminal, red light flashed wildly, data poured out and the Galaxy Channel live broadcast exploded, and the audience's barrages were filled with admiration and trembling, godly proof. The insider in the top management is exposed. Lu Ting, the iron-blooded and innocent hero, will live forever. Zell's iron face collapsed and he roared, his eyes widened in despair. The Iron Tower body trembled and the alloy armor clicked and cracked. The green veins bulged in his neck and he howled hoarsely, forgery, the virus code hacked my terminal. Lu Ting, you ruined my galaxy. The projection of the top generals collapsed and they knelt down in tears and trembled in fear. Master Zell. The conspiracy is over. The projection of the audience in the hall screamed in full frequency and roared in worship, iron-blooded triumph. Lu Ting is invincible in his wisdom and bravery, and Dr. Gu Fai proves that ghosts can be eliminated. The folding door of the unexpected dome burst open and pressed against the giant metal beast. Entering, the marshal's iron-blooded projection exploded like stars, and the whole hall buzzed with brains. Marshal is here. There is irrefutable proof of Zell's traitor, and the whole chain is summarily executed by law. The marshal's alloy-armored iron arm swept the red light across Zell's iron tower, the curve of the body's shield collapsed, and the cobwebs burst, and the blue-black main gun simulated piercing the chest, green blood splattered and grunted together. The hot wave of golden liquid steamed into the air, and the smell of rust was stink. He knelt down, trembling, eyes rounded, despair and regret, and howled in pain, Marshal. The remaining souls of the blueprint changed the throne, and the galaxy was reborn. The Marshal coldly snorted and roared, execution. The red beam blasted Zell's head, exploding with green slurry and splashing on the dome, and the corpse rolled. Alloy screamed and died, and the ghost projection in the high level collapsed. Lieutenant General Quarren and other green blood spurted out, and he knelt down, trembling and worshipping in fear, spare my life. The conspiracy is broken. The military law soldier fired a series of blue light shots, and the whole list of traitors was reduced to ashes. Their flesh and blood evaporated, and the smelly glue was pungent. The hall trembled like earthquake debris and was sticky on the floor. The Marshal's dark eyes turned to look at Lu Ting. The nanocuffs clicked and shattered when he swung his iron arm. The blood seeped out of his burned arm. The nanoglue repaired the silver-blue veins and pulsed to relieve pain. He said in a low voice, Lu Ting is an iron-blooded hero. God's tactics annihilate the main force of Casa to expose the annihilation plot. He was promoted to Major General. He was given a new flagship, Galaxy Eagle, to patrol for 3,500 meters and a quantum shield. The main gun of the class is annihilated, and the uranium crystals of the whole ship are fully loaded. The commander of the Edge Star Field. The projection of the senior officials in the hall opened their eyes and shouted in admiration, trembling with tears, Rear Admiral Iron Blood. The Galaxy Eagle divine ship, Lu Ting is invincible. The audience channel barraged and worshipped Quang Tao, the hero conquers the ghost and kills the new leader of the galaxy. Life. Gu Hontieta knelt down and beat his chest in hoarse voice, Captain. Major General Iron Blood. The engine is overloaded and bloody. Ye Zhi's pale and slender body burst into tears and she knelt down to worship and trembled, the plan is invincible to protect the galaxy. The crew members knelt down and screamed passionately, Long live Major General. Genius tactics, follow the bloody edge to the death. Lu Ting's black eyes held the silver light in the abyss, spitting iron and blood, and whispered, the Galaxy Eagle set sail, bloodbath the remnants to welcome the interstellar battle. The holographic star map exploded and the Galaxy Eagle's alloy giant engine sprayed huge blue flames, and the audience's projection collapsed and worshipped, and the Galaxy Shock Hero was reborn. The passage collapsed and the crystals shattered like a waterfall, and the heat wave of corrosive aura hit his face. Lu Ting's dark eyes locked the deep light and the pulse gun was loaded, break into the deep depths, kill the remaining party. Mu Xue, share the broken casa. Mu Xue nodded with a fake smile, her slender hands trembling, the chip's dark veins, General, the crystal is lost, the remaining soul clue is released. The wind howls and the silent abyss of space intensifies, the shadow of annihilation opens its mouth like a giant beast, the iron-blooded commandos rush forward on a blood-stained crystal road, the buzzing countdown pierces the brain, and the crises are endless. The blue light scan of the Star Ring Fortress dock buzzed like a beehive. The Galaxy Eagle heavy cruiser's alloy body was 3,500 meters thick and suspended in a vacuum chamber. The silver-blue veins of the quantum shield swallowed stardust. The uranium crystals in the engine room were filled with green radiance. The heat wave steamed the air. The smell of rust and new paint was mixed and pungent. The crew projection was transferred from the melted deck of the Thunder to the new ship. The pale face turned rosy and the blood was pumping. The communications sergeant's young fingers trembled and touched the holographic panel. The Galaxy Channel barrage was full of admiration, Rear Admiral Iron-Blooded triumphant. Zhel Huifei's high-level ghosts were massacred. Blue, the remnant soul of the picture, protects the Milky Way forever, and the Galaxy Eagle godship is bleeding on the edge of setting sail. Gu Han's iron tower figure, iron arm scorch mark, nano glue drawing repair, veins faded, hoarse growl, turning to worship the iron fist, lightly beating his chest, Major General. The engine is overloaded and the light speed rushes into the god's record, the Milky Way. The Eagle's quantum level is upgraded, the main gun's annihilation beam is 120% overloaded and the uranium crystal veins are infinite. Ye Zhi is pale and slender, hugging the crystal body, swallowing tears, drying up, trembling with excitement, spinning virus code, black hole vortex simulation, blueprint to perfect the residual spirit injection quantum shield, God's plan annihilator prototype scan 100%, the neutral star field is eternal. The crew member knelt down with tears and roared with blood boiling in his throat, Iron-Blooded Major will live forever. Follow the god's tactical genius, and the Thunder will never destroy the galaxy. Lu Ting stood at the core of the bridge with black eyes and abyss, burning arms, silver and blue veins pulsating to relieve pain, shoulders and legs healed, new armor wrapped around him, iron fist holding the crystal entity, silver glow pulsating in the mind, the interstellar storm running at high speed. Zhel was wiped out, the top brass was frightened, Mu Xue Yaoying, Nanolock Song, encouraged the fringe remnants. The ambition of the Casa remnant spirit blueprint was not extinguished, and the Galaxy Eagle set sail to bloodbath the remnants. He hummed in a low, full-frequency voice like thunder, and the bulkhead shook softly, the whole ship is listening. The Thunder dock is repaired and incorporated into the Galaxy Eagle's ailerons, Gu Han's upgraded quantum engine Ye Zhi's blueprint prototype is injected, the fringe star field sweeps away the remnants, and the entire intelligence network monitors the Mu Xue chip pulse. The member's projection widened his eyes in admiration and trembled, his blood rushing wildly, yes. The Major General is invincible in his wisdom and bravery, and the evil spirits and hatred in Mu Xue will be extinguished. But suddenly the holographic alarm's red light flashed, dazzling his eyes, buzzing in his brain, and the communications sergeant's young face was pale, and his fingers stiffened and locked on the heat source of the edge star field. The fringe rebellion broke out. The low-frequency pulse of Mu Xue chip instigated Xiao Yi's remnant party Gakasa, 5 cruisers of the fringe fleet turned to rebellion, and prototypes of annihilators appeared in the factory's heat source, and the conspiracy to expand the power of the neutral star field was rekindled. Gu Han's iron fist smashed against the platform, sparks spattered and his hoarse roar broke out, the dog thief faked his death. Xiao Yi's throat hole was filled with blood bubbles and the real corpse was projected as a camouflage, and the nano-resurrection cabin secretly resurrected the demon party to counterattack. Ye Zhi's slender body trembled and she hugged the crystal silver glow with tears flashing in panic. The blueprint of the residual spirit was leaked. The remnants of the high-level officials destroyed the neutrality and expanded their power, and the prototype of the divine blueprint must be destroyed by yourself. The twisted black hole in the silent abyss of space outside the shipyard feeds the remaining stardust, and the Galaxy Eagle engine jets out blue flames. The majestic brushed flames lick the wing armor, the metal liquid ticks and evaporates, the ozone burns the new paint, the rust, the bloody old marks, and the snorkel whispers. The jump door folded and exploded, the alloy was thick and heavy, and 40% of the Thunder's molten deck shield was integrated into the orange ailerons, buzzing and docking, and the heat wave hit every inch of the deck in the cabin. Lu Ting stood up, his black eyes exploded with iron blood and roared, the quantum shield is fully activated, the main gun is cooled and recharged, 120% of the Ye Zhi virus code is injected into the Gu Han engine, and the assault boat is prepared to land at the rebel base. The projections of the entire crew changed from joy of achievement to solemn stares. The blood and ice in his round eyes whispered hummingly, borderline rebellion is suppressing the situation. How can the invincible Major General tolerate the demon party? But Gu Han projected the iron tower and waved his nano-glue spray to upgrade the quantum vane's green glow and roared hoarsely, the engine upgrade is complete. Uranium crystals fully loaded with 1.2 times the speed of light to outflank the rebels, the shield is quantum level and swallows stardust without any damage. Ye Zhi's pale fingers input the residual spirit virus code at high speed, the black hole vortex rotates and the blueprint prototype is pulsating with excitement, the prototype is enhanced. Specially kill, the imitations of the high-level remnants will collapse. The communication sergeant's fingers were flying as the heat source on the edge of the holographic star map flashed wildly, the heat wave in the rebel factory's alloy dome steamed the air, and the Mu Xue demon shadow projection instigated Xiao Yi's iron face to resurrect the throat mark, and the nano-healing demon party swarmed. The wind roar of the silent abyss in the edge star field intensified, the fragments of the remaining stars collided with the shield, the curves jingled, the metal screamed, the giant body of the Galaxy Eagle, the green crystal veins, the blue light swallowed, the fire rain poured down, the jump exploded, and the 5 gray-armored rebel cruisers, the main gun, the red light, the charged beast teeth swallowed. The seductive whispers of the rebel communications echoed and the buzzing was harsh, Mu Xue joins forces. Xiao Yi's resurrection nanocabin blueprint replica factory is fully loaded, the neutral star field is destroyed and the power of the senior executive Yunhua is enthroned. The crew's projection collapsed, pale, trembling, tears of fear, the demon party hooked Casa, the prototype of the annihilator destroyed the galaxy. Lu Ting sneered and locked the hologram with his iron fist, aiming at the black-eyed abyss, fire with the annihilation beam of the main gun. The quantum main gun flashed orange and carried the residual wave and aftershocks, and the charged beast roared, and the silver-blue annihilation beam blasted through the gray armor of the leading rebel patrol. The green crystal veins of the main engine burst and the spider webs were raining down with fire. The green blood evaporated and the smelly glue was pungent. The rebel crew's projections screamed and collapsed, and they knelt and trembled, Galaxy Eagle cannon. The Major General's iron-blooded blow flew away. Gu Han's roar of iron roared and his horse iron fist hit the platform and sparks flew, light speed outflanking the Thunder's orange main gun, the 3 rebels' shield curves cracked and the alloy liquid evaporated in space. Ye Zhi Slim's body trembled with excitement and the virus code was injected into the full frequency range, the residual black hole vortex hacked into the rebels' share, and the factory prototype counted down to self-destruction. At the edge of the alloy dome of the rebel base, the asteroid lava heat wave steamed the air, sulfur and rust were mixed with blood and pungent smell, Mu Xue's tight-fitting battle suit curved and seductive shoulders, red marks, demonic eyes flashing, poisonous and hateful fire fiber fingers pressing the chip low-frequency pulse, Xiao Yi is resurrected. The factory is full of imitations to suppress neutrality, Casa reinforcements are suppressing. Xiao Yi's iron face, throat marks, nano-healing green tendons, a hoarse smile, Lu Dog the remnant of the Galaxy Eagle has promised a blueprint to replace the Emperor, and the Annihilator will destroy the neutrality and expand its power. But suddenly the dome folded and a wave of heat hit his face. Lu Ting's assault boat clicked the airlock door with a blue light and locked the throat. The figure with burning silver and blue veins was filled with dark eyes, death to the demon party. The rebel soldier's gray-armored gun muzzle sprayed with red light. The arc whip whipped up the smelly glue and burned it, but Gu Han's iron tower iron arm smashed the alloy helmet, green blood spattered and roared hoarsely, Vice Captain Gu Han's iron-blooded sweep. Ye Zhi projected the slimming virus code and spun around to hack into the factory terminal. The red light flashed wildly, the prototype self-destructed. The residual spirit swallowed the imitation green crystal and its veins collapsed. The rebel soldier's eyes widened, pale and trembling, his throat gasping, and he knelt down with hot tears. Fear, God virus. The factory's heat source is attenuated by 80%, and the Major General is invincible. Mu Xue's monster body twists the nanolocks, dark pine eyes, poisonous fire, slender legs, kicks and arc whips, but Lu Ting's iron fist captures the new cuffs and locks the demon's shoulders to death. Xiao Yi's iron face broke down and he roared ferociously. His iron fist smashed against the table. Green veins flew out. His eyes were rounded in despair, his throat was trembling, and his throat was streaked with blood. The blueprint for nanoresurrection and suspended animation is backed up, and the top management is destroying the neutrality and expanding the power of the throne. The red light of his alloy gun hit Lu Ting's scalp, but Lu Ting's black eyes were cold and the explosion of iron palms held the barrel in reverse. The gun barrel melted and evaporated. The smelly glue was pungent, and he hit his knee in reverse. Green blood gurgled from his abdomen. He knelt down and trembled. The iron tower body cracked, and he howled hoarsely in pain, "Spare my life." Mu Xue's rebellion failed, and the factory was destroyed. The remaining 5 commandos' uniforms were scorched with blood and stained with blue light, and they fired a series of rounds. The gray armor of the rebels swarmed into dust, their flesh evaporated, and the heat wave hit their faces with the stench of rust. Debris from the base's dome was scattered on the ground, sticky and shaking like an earthquake. Gu Han held Xiao Yi down with his iron arms, his iron face twisted and hoarse, and he roared in worship, "Major General God's attack." All the demon gangs were captured, and the engine outflanked them at the speed of light without leaking through the net. Ye Zhi's pale and slender figure projected excited tears and hugged the fragments of the prototype crystal in silver and blue pulses. The blueprint is perfect 100%. The conspiracy of the high-level remnants has been eradicated, and the Yeoman Divine Witness in the neutral star territory has been projected. The crew members knelt down and shouted with wide-eyed admiration, "Iron-blooded Major General Immortal." Assault on the base of the Grey Flying Demon Party, the Galaxy Eagle Divine ship is invincible and annihilates the Swallowing Star. Lu Ting lowered his blood and escorted Mu Xue's demon body Xiao Yi back to the boat with an iron face. His black eyes looked into the abyss and the edge of the holographic star map was completely destroyed. The green glow of the factory faded and evaporated, the entire ship is recovered. Gu Han's quantum engine returns to the headquarters, Ye Zhi's blueprint prototype is uploaded to the marshal, and the military court trial of Mu Xue and Xiao Yi exposes the remnants. Mu Xue's demon eyes flashed with despair and hatred. Fire Whisper's heart is spinning, Casa's entire army is under pressure, and the cosmic conspiracy is not extinguished. The Galaxy Eagle engine's blue flames are magnificent, and the brushed flames are licking the wing armor. The jump gate folds and explodes, and the alloy forest retreats into the silent abyss. The space wind roar intensifies and Casa's empire's heat source, red light, smiles ferociously and gathers momentum. The storm in the fringe star field rekindles and the final battle is approaching. The projection of the crew changed from despair to ecstasy and they worshipped with tears, Major General's divine tactics. The demon party triumphs with a bloodbath, and they will fight to the death to welcome the entire Casa army. Gu Han beat his chest at the Iron Tower and roared hoarsely, "Glorious!" The new iron-blooded Major General of the Galaxy is wise and brave. Invincible. Ye Zhi knelt down in tears and projected, "God's blueprint will protect forever, God's plan will destroy the ghosts of the universe." The full-frequency galactic barrage shook billions, the hero's reputation exploded like stars, and the world was changed by iron blood. The blue light scan of the outer vacuum chamber of the Star Ring Fortress is like the whisper of a galactic whirlpool. The 3,500-meter heavy alloy body of the Galaxy Eagle heavy cruiser oppresses the field of vision. The quantum shield curves with silver and blue veins pulsing with stardust and fire rain pouring down to lick the wing armor. The uranium crystal green glow in the engine room is full of heat waves, rust, new paint, bloody old marks, mixed with pungent smells, and hits every inch of the deck in the cabin. The jump door folded and exploded. The remaining flames evaporated and the smell of ozone burn filled the air. 40% of the melt marks on the Thunder's ailerons were buzzing and the docking was locked. The 5 remaining men of the assault boat were scorched and blood-stained with blue awns on their battle suits. The muzzles of the guns were lowered and the recovery hatch was lowered. The crew's pale face was projected into a thickened face, and the hot blood was sucking out of their throats and they were humming and whispering. Casa's entire army is smiling fiercely at the edge of the border with red awns, lest the iron-blooded army triumphed, and the demon party's captured military law exposed the remnants of the conspiracy. The young communications sergeant stroked the holographic panel with stiff fingers and the barrage of the Galaxy channel turned to worry. Hundreds of red ships from the Edge heat source are gathering momentum, and the Casa Emperor's projection is roaring. The blueprint belongs to the Empire, and all the ghosts in the Galaxy Alliance are destroyed. The Marshal said quickly, "Return to trial, the war is imminent." Gu Han's iron tower figure, iron arm, nano-glue drawing and repairing, veins receding, hoarseness, growling, iron fist, beating his chest, and worshipping, Major General God's attack on the demon party flew away. The quantum engine returned at 120% light speed without any hindrance, and the shield swallowed the Stardust Casa probe and disappeared. Ye Zhi's pale and slender body hugged the crystal entity, the silver glow swallowed up the tears, dried up and trembled with excitement the black hole vortex of spinning virus code with slender fingers. The blueprint prototype is 100% infused with remnant spirits and strengthened. Upload the encrypted full-frequency Marshal for personal verification. God's proof will eliminate the remnants of high-level officials. In the escort cabin, Mu Xue's demonic body and tight-fitting battle suit curved with seductive shoulder blood and new handcuffs, howling in pain and whispering with demonic eyes flashing with hatred, whispering in the heart, the whole army of Casa. The cosmic conspiracy. Lu Ting's iron blood is no match for that of an ant. Xiao Yi's iron-faced throat mark turned green, and he knelt down, trembling and hoarse, begging for mercy, "Forgive me." The blueprint backup executive promised the throne, and the Casa red ship swallowed the Milky Way. The crew member's eyes were wide open, pale, frightened, and he knelt down with tears. The demon gang is laughing at Casa's orange-red guard. The shield is on the verge of collapse. How can the Major General's divine tactics suppress the entire army? Lu Ting's black eyes, the abyss and the freezing coldness, stood at the core of the bridge, burning his arms, his silver blue veins pulsating to relieve pain, his new armor wrapped around his body, his iron fist holding the crystal entity, silver glow pulsing in his mind, the interstellar storm running at high speed. The return trial revealed the conspiracy, the Casa suppressed the final bloodbath, and the Galaxy was reborn with iron blood in his hands. His iron-blooded low-pitched voice was as loud as thunder, and the bulkhead shook softly. The whole ship is on alert. The quantum shield is fully activated and the main gun is recharged. Gu Han's engine is overloaded and returning. Ye Zhi's blueprint is uploaded, and the commando team is supervising the demon party's military law. The projection of the whole ship changed from fear to hot-blooded craziness, wide-eyed admiration and trembling. Yes. The Major General is invincible with iron blood, and the divine plan will destroy the ghosts in the universe. The heat wave of the alloy dome of the Star Ring Fortress steams the air, sulfur and rust are mixed with blood and pungent. The Galaxy Eagle engine's blue flames are magnificent, and the brushed residual flames lick the wing armor. The metal liquid evaporates, and the quantum hook clicks and buckles the airlock door. The blue light scan hums and vomits. The crew's projection transfers to the new deck, which is ruddy and hot-blooded. The Marshal's alloy armor and dark eyes came to the trial stage and the Iron Tower in person. The figure oppressed the high-ranking generals in the audience. Their pale faces lowered their heads and whispered in a low voice, "The Fringe Rebellion has been wiped out. The Ghost Bloodbath blueprint of Zern has been uploaded. The entire Casa army is pressing down on the Alliance. The shield curve has collapsed and the neutrality has fallen. Where is the evidence of Major General Lu Ting's iron blood? Mu Xue's demonic body is newly cuffed. Locked up with a seductive curve, he was dragged onto the stage with blood rolling out and sticky eyes oozing with poisonous fire. He smiled ferociously and whispered, "The remnants of the Marshal's high-level officials have seduced Casa's blueprint to replace the Emperor. The conspiracy of the neutral universe to expand power will last forever. Xiao Yi's iron-faced green veins violently knelt down, trembling and hoarse, and collapsed. The nano-resurrection factory is a replica backup. The top management promised Zell the throne. Casa's red light swallow the Milky Way. The senior general's eyes widened with pale eyes, trembling with tears, and his throat gasped in fear. All the inner ghosts are exposed. The alliance collapses and Casa suppresses the situation. How can the marshal's iron blood destroy the remaining evildoers? Gu Han smashed the shackles of the trial with sparks and horse iron, and yelled, "The demon party's chip pulse evidence of the resurrection of Xiao Yi's throat hole nano cabin, the factory's self-destruction virus code is shocking." Ye Zhi's pale, slender body projected the slender finger into the crystal entity's silver-blue pulsating holographic star map and the red light flashed wildly. The top-level remnant's iron face collapsed. The blueprint residual spirit scan is 100%. Lu Ting stood up, his black eyes exploded with cold light, and his iron-blooded figure stepped on the judgment platform, burning his arms. Silver and blue veins pulsated, iron palms slapped the crystal entity, silver glow pulsated, and exploded. The holographic blueprint prototype annihilator enhanced beam simulated swallowing the Casa red ship and flew into ashes. The projection of high-ranking generals came from the mockery. The irony turned and collapsed, his eyes rounded as he knelt down tremblingly with tears. God's blueprint. The major general's iron-blooded God will destroy God's plan, and the remnants of Zell will be thrown into ashes and executed by court-martial. The marshal's black eyes were piercing, his iron fist smashed the table, sparks flew and he worshipped in a low voice like thunder, Lu Ting. God's tactics are wise and brave. Enemy, promoted to commander of the Galaxy Fleet, full power of the Galaxy Eagle flagship, blueprint prototype military equipment injected into the main gun of the entire army. Mu Xue's demonic body shivered in despair and howled in pain, then turned pale and knelt down. The whole Casa army, the higher-ups have a bigger conspiracy. Xiao Yi the face cracked and green blood spattered. He was hoarse and spared his life. The throne is in ashes, spare my life. The blue light of the military gun fired continuously, the electric arc whip whipped out the smelly glue, burned the flesh and evaporated the heat wave, and hit the face with the stench of rust. The body of the demon party rolled and the broken dome fragments scattered on the ground, sticky and trembling. The crew members knelt down in full projection and roared with blood boiling in their throats, "Iron-blooded handsome man will live forever." The demon party triumphs with a bloodbath, and the divine blueprint destroys the ghosts in the universe. The communications sergeant's young fingers fluttered in the air, and the galaxy channel barrage saluted and the waves shook billions. Commander the iron-blooded hero. The marginal commander galaxy is reborn, and we will fight to the death to welcome Casa. But a sudden holographic alarm, red light piercing the eyes, buzzing, brain devouring like a beehive, the outer space of the Star Ring Fortress twisted the abyss of silence, the Casa Empire's hundreds of red ships jumped and exploded, the main gun of the alloy-dense throat was blasted, the red light grinned ferociously, the energy-charged beast fang swallowed, the Emperor's projection, iron face, green eyes, poisonous fire roar, echoed harshly, the blueprint belongs to the Empire. Zell deal forever. The remnants of the top leaders join forces to destroy the galaxy and annihilate the Red Beam Fortress. The fortress shield curves, orange and red, cracking, spider webs, rain of fire, broken stars, debris, clanging metal, wailing heat, steaming air, sulfur burnt, bloody faces. The projection of the top generals collapses, pale, trembling, kneeling with tears of fear. Casa's entire army is approaching. The main gun is overloaded and the fortress flies away. The iron-blooded commander can't defeat hundreds of ships. Gu Han projected the iron arm of the Iron Tower and sprayed the upgraded quantum vanes with green light and roared hoarsely. The Galaxy Eagle engine left the port at 120% light speed. The prototype of the main gun's annihilation beam was injected with the residual spirit virus, and the commander-in-chief's tactics encircled and destroyed them all. The black hole whirlpool of the virus code trembling all over the body was injected into the full frequency, prototype strengthened to kill Casa Red Crystal. Hack into the shared self-destruction countdown, divine blueprint to swallow the Empire. Martial Iron-Blooded roared full frequency, the whole army obeys the order. Under the command of Commander Lu Ting, the Galaxy Eagle flagship assaults the Emperor's red ship, and the Annihilator prototype opens fire. The roar of the silent abyss in space intensified, debris from the remaining stars rained down like bullets, the giant body of the Galaxy Eagle, the blue flame, the majestic brushed flames licked the wing armor, the metal liquid evaporated and burned with ozone, the quantum shield, the silver and blue veins swallowed the fire rain, jumped and exploded, and pressed the belly of the Casa red ship. The main gun flashed orange and hard to carry the residual wave and the aftershocks, the charging beast roar, the blueprint prototype annihilation beams silver and blue. The explosion penetrated the Emperor's red armor engine, the red crystal veins collapsed, the green blood evaporated, and the smelly glue stung the nose. The Emperor's iron face collapsed and his green eyes screamed in despair, God beam. The remaining souls of the blueprint swallowed the red crystal, and the Empire flew into ashes. The soldiers of the Casa red ship projection stared with wide eyes, pale, trembling, and knelt down with tears of fear. Galaxy Eagle divine cannon. The commander's iron-blooded blow. The shield curve of the 100 ships collapsed. Gu Hantai roared and smashed the platform with sparks, the aileron thunder's orange main cannon fired continuously, and the 30 red ships' alloy liquid evaporated in the space and rained down. Ye Zhi's pale fingers entered the residual spirit virus code at high speed and hacked into the Empire. The red light flashed wildly, countdown to self-destruction. The divine virus swallows the cosmic ghost. Lu Ting's black-eyed abyss locked the hologram and sneered, fire with all the cannons. The quantum shield swallows the red light, and the assault ship descends on the Emperor's core to destroy the ghost. The crew's projection turned from despair to ecstasy, eyes filled with admiration and trembling. Commander God's tactics. Annihilate the stars, and the whole Casa army will fly away. The red light of the vacuum chamber outside the fortress turned to collapse. The alloy hook of the Galaxy Eagle assault boat clicked and buckled the airlock door of the Emperor's red ship. The blue light of the muzzle locked the throat and rushed into the heat wave. Sulfur, rust, green, bloody and stinky mixture, the Casa soldiers' red armor and dense gun muzzles sprayed with red light and sizzled with arc whips. But Lu Ting's iron-blooded figure burned his arms with silver. The blue veins pulsed and the iron palm held the gun barrel behind his back, melting and evaporating. He turned around and hit his abdomen with his knees. Green blood spurted out. The soldier knelt down and trembled. The iron tower body cracked and cracked. He howled in pain, spare my life. The Emperor's iron-faced high-level remnant traded the blueprint. Gu Han smashed the red armor helmet with his iron arm and spewed out green blood. The grunt roared hoarsely, iron-blooded sweep. The 5 remaining commandos' uniforms were scorched with blood and stained with blue light. They were swarmed by a series of red-armored swarms. Their flesh and blood evaporated and the heat wave hit their faces. The fragments of the alloy dome of the Emperor's core were scattered on the ground, sticky and trembling like an earthquake. The Emperor's iron face, green eyes, poisonous fire, and his smile turned to despair, and his eyes widened and trembled. There is a bigger conspiracy at the top. The core ghost of the Galaxy Alliance. Shadow, the blueprint is no more than an iceberg. The red glow of his alloy sword hit Lu Ting's scalp, but Lu Ting's iron palm smashed the blade, sparks exploded, and the cold light exploded in his black eyes. Suffer death. The Emperor's knee hit his throat, the green blood fountain fell to his knees, his body rolled, the red crystal veins collapsed, the virus black hole vortex swallowed the whole ship, the red glow faded and evaporated. The full-frequency galactic barrage paid homage to the violent waves that shocked hundreds of millions. Iron-blooded commander will live forever. The entire Casa army will fly away to the divine blueprint, and divine tactics will break the cosmic conspiracy. Gu Han beat his chest in the Iron Tower and worshipped with a hoarse iron roar, the commander is glorious. The speed of light encircles the network without leakage, and the galaxy is reborn. Ye Zhi knelt down in tears and held the crystal in his arms, pulsing with silver light. God's prototype is forever protected, and the neutral star field is the proof of peace. The marshal's black eyes were fierce and iron-blooded, Lu Ting hero. The whole army is revitalized, and the commander of the galaxy is ready for an interstellar war. The black-eyed abyss-viewing holographic star map of Lu Ting in front of the Emperor's corpse evaporates, and the wind roar in the silent abyss intensifies, and the red glow of the heat source in the deeper star field looms larger. The conspiracy of the high-level remnants is circling, and the cosmic storm is rekindled, but he holds the crystal entity in his iron hand, and the silver light pulsates in his mind. The interstellar iron blood is running at high speed, the galaxy is reborn, and the blood is endless. The crew projected full-frequency tears and roared with wide-eyed admiration and trembling, "Follow the iron-blooded handsome man to the death. God's tactical genius will live forever, and the interstellar war galaxy will be immortal." The Galaxy Eagle engine's blue flame grand jet jump door folded and exploded, and the alloys were dense and sailed to the unknown star field. The legend of heroes exploded in the stars, the universe was changed by iron-blooded, and the new war is approaching the final glory. The dark nano locks in the cabin loosened and clicked, and the snowy monster body twisted its shoulders with blood-dried red marks and charming curves. The charming eyes flashed with poisonous hatred and the fire fiber fingers pressed the low-frequency pulse of the invisible chip to contact the remnants of the fringe party. Zhel Huifei, Major General Lu Gojin Galaxy Eagle, instigated the rebellion of the fringe fleet, counterattack and annihilation. The wind howl in the silent abyss of space intensified, the galactic storm reignited, and the shadow of the remnant party hovered.